Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday. Oh my goodness, May 4th. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And I just want to say a pleasant good night to every single one of you. Monica Inns, oh my goodness, thank you for logging on so early at 3:09 p.m. Vernon Garnes, good night, Vernon. Listen, we need to do something that we can see each other. Vernon, good evening. It's a pleasure having you on the show tonight. Black Coolie, good evening. Bajan Boy, good evening. And welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show. We are coming to you live, Bajan Boy, and Monica and Nigel and Judy. We are coming to you live from the beautiful, beautiful Barbados. Oh my goodness. Queen Bee, good night. Good night. Oh, wow. Yes, Junie Rock, good night. Joy and Faith. Marva Hunt, how are you doing? How are you doing, girl? Bim the Beautiful, Flo Joe Maloney. I love to call that name. Jermaine, good evening. Michael Harewood, how are you doing? Oh, wonderful. Shirley, good evening, Shirley. Yes, another top-notch show coming up tonight. And you know who we have on the show? We have CASWELL FRANKLYN. Is going to be on tonight. You better share. Because once he's on, they're gonna do all kind of madness for us not to hear him. So we gotta work together tonight. Judith and Clark, Caswell is gonna be on, GLYNE Murray is on, MAXINE McCLEAN is on. We almost have our original team. Elizabeth Knights, how you doing? Michael Jilts, Diana Husband, Lori Bob, Lucinda Aline. Listen, folks, we are the loyal opposition, and we need to remind them that we are made up of all of us here in Barbados, all 180,000 of us. We make up the loyal opposition. Yes, Robert, you are part of the loyal opposition. Pedro, Sherry Berry, Scully Dog Kennels. Good night. Good night. You say good morning. It's good night, Scully Dog. Scully Dog always giving me trouble about my cuckoo and all of these different things. Good night. Good night. Good night, Scully Dog. Oh my goodness. Listen, folks, get ready to like, get ready to share all WhatsApp groups tonight. Get your pen and paper ready. We have tonight, it's going to be a night of education. Yes? Like we don't have education all the time. But we're going to go right into the national anthem now that we have done our greeting, okay? So can we stand for the playing of the national anthem? All right. So, guys, the Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. And with him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. Listen, that is the anthem. And last night, I went to an event. I was at the Barbados Gospel Fest launch last night in Independence Square. Anybody was there, or did anybody hear it on television? And that was one of the key points in the founder of the event, ADRIAN AGARD, gave me a very powerful speech, and the essence of what he spoke about was the Lord being the people's guide for past 300 years. And he asked a question: what happened, Barbados? That's a question that he asked. What happened, Barbados? Was anybody there? If you were there, let me know, please. Anybody there? Anybody went? And I'm going to see. I didn't plan to show this, but I think I do have that. He asks, what happened, Barbados? What happened? And I just I wanted to show you the artwork for that. I didn't plan to, but and then I'm going to go right into what Dave had up on the screen. But if Dave checks his WhatsApp right now, it's live TV. He's going to see that thing there. What really, Barbados? What really happened? And he was looking at where we are as a country. And I want to ask us in the comment section, what really happened, Barbados? What really happened, Barbados? What has happened to us? Yes, Marva. Marva watched it. What really happened? I want us to take a moment. Everybody write something. Or somebody listen to it on VOB 790. Can somebody write in the chat what you think really happened? Barbados. And you notice with this artwork how the end of the Barbados, it's fading away. So the BAR was fine. By the time it got to B, you notice the fading is happening. It says Barbados. What really happened? What really happened? We have to ask what really happened when we think about how many souls we have lost by the gun. Every day is some criminal activity that is so out of the norm for Barbados. I was speaking to somebody last night from Trinidad, a very well-known artist from Trinidad, and he said, he was asking Marcia, what happened? He said, I normally know that Barbados would have probably about 18 murders a year. What has happened that it has more than doubled? Right? It's almost tripled. What has happened? Somebody said we chose to follow an evil leader rather than God. Is that what happened? Good night, M. Allen. Glad to know that you're locked on. What really happened? What happened? I want to get, I saw one response. I want to hear from us because I want us to think. I want tonight's show, I want us to be involved, at least in this section as much as possible. So what really happened? What do you think happened, Barbados? The wrong party in power. Okay, so somebody said that we turn our backs on God. Anybody else? Let me wait for at least two more. Somebody said the wrong party in power. We turn our backs on God. We chose to follow an evil leader rather than God. We have lost the vision. We, it seems, have lost the spirituality of yesteryear. That's what Shirley is saying. Anybody else? One more. Barbados, what really happened? What really happened between the time I came to Barbados to now? Wow, a lot has happened. But why? No, nothing else. We don't even know what has happened to us. Agree. I was thinking about that for the weekend. I said, I don't think we even understand what has happened to us. Loyal opposition. Those of you in the diaspora, I'm telling you, it's a different feeling in this country right now, a whole different feeling. The people have been brainwashed. We've become more selfish. We're worshiping her. I guess the prime minister is what you're talking about. Well, Andrea, I'm going to get to that right now. Yes, we seem to be going down, down, down. Now, I want to look at one of the first clips from the event last night. So if Dave could put up that very first one, when he just started. I think it's about 3 minutes long. Can we listen to that? Thank you so much. Guys, while you share tonight, as the program goes on, we're going to be talking about St. James North and asking the question, could political interference affect the election results? Then Mr. Murray is going to, before we do that, Mr. Murray is going to come on and talk about the Electoral and Boundaries Commission and look at what can we really trust the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. We want to look at that. So tonight we're looking a lot on the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, how it is set up, etc. Lots of education and for us to stay alert, because we believe that it's very, very possible that they're going to seek to interfere with the election results. So we want to take a look at that. Don't leave, guys. Stay tuned and share. Okay, go ahead, Dave. Thank you so much.
You know what? Not less than 24 hours after we started hearing that message, I received a call from a longtime friend saying to me words to the effect that whatever I intended to say, I should be careful. I should watch my back. Talking about doing the impossible. Wow. And this was not the only call or message of caution. Where do we live? You're not really with me, Where do we live? What is the name of this island? You serious? You sure we're not living somewhere else? Now tell me, what would make a person do that? Or who would make a person do that? There is a sense of uneasy fear and anxiety sitting over Barbados. I am 70 years old, 70. And as you would expect, longevity offers you some perspective which younger persons, some younger person may not have. So when I hear people up and down this country saying that you cannot call the name of our Prime Minister mere Amor Motley, it is kind of talk that causes me much consternation. I do remember being alive during the tenure of Earl Walton Barrow. The things that were said publicly about it, Tom Adams, the things that were said, written, and sung about him. Brisa John, Erskine Sandy Ford, Owen Seymour Arthur, the late Owen Seymour Arthur, of course, and Fernell Stewart. Oh my, what things were said about him. So you can imagine my consternation when I hear the soft whispers around Barbados about our current Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley. God has saved even my son Ralph, current leader of the opposition, refers to my daughter. This is what God is saying. My son Ralph refers to my daughter, Mia Amor, his sister, both of whom I created, my son Ralph. When speaking of my daughter, Mia, uses references like dictator and tyrant. The people's guide, the Lord God, our Father, says he does not like to see us, his children, be another. So while I cannot say where that spirit of fear and anxiety comes from, I can guarantee you that by the time I am finished tonight, God Almighty is going to break that spirit from over Barbados.
Okay, Dave, you know, I was at that event, and once he started to speak, almost everybody in the crowd, you could tell they understood who the people were afraid of. And I want to say to Barbados, those of you who are watching me tonight, the loyal opposition, that we sing in the anthem, the Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. But it seems to me that we have somehow in the last 7 years forgotten all about that. And we have replaced God Almighty with the Prime Minister. And why I say that is, for a lot of us, the Prime Minister seems large over this country and looming large and big. In fact, we are made to believe that the only big things that happen in here happens through her. You can't get ahead unless you are sanctioned by her. You hear that a lot. And here it is that this man is 70 years old, has been a Christian, a believer in God, a minister in the service of God for most of his life, put out a message that God has given him a message for Barbados. Nothing political in what he put out. If Dave could play just what, if we could remember just the little ad that Mr. Agard put out, that people would call him to caution him, to say, be careful of what you say. What kind of country are we living in, Barbados? I want you to stop for a moment, honestly, and quietly think about that. That here it is, we're supposed to be a Christian nation. This man is a Christian. He's not Muslim for you to say, well, you know, if you say something about Allah, people might be offended. We have, I mean, you know, they said we have more churches, more churches per square mile than a lot of other countries. And we are a Christian nation, and he's put out a message that he has a message from God, and he's told to be afraid, to be careful about what he says. Again, where do we live? Who are we afraid of? I say to Barbadians who are listening, in the name of Almighty God, will we break that spirit of fear? Who are you afraid of? And what can that person do to you? Is that person God? Is that person God in your life? So when Mr. Agard is being told, you need to be careful, he's given warnings. By just saying, I have a message from God, that is saying that there is somebody in Barbados that we have put way above God. That a message for somebody bringing a message from God needs to be afraid. That is saying there is somebody in Barbados that has been elevated above God. Barbados, it is time that we break the spirit of fear. It is time that we understand that there's no human being, nobody on the face of this earth that we are going to put above ourselves and believe that they are gods. They are not. There's no human being that you are to put in the place of God. And you have to live in such fear. I get it all the time whenever I have to come on. Marcia, be careful. Marcia, be careful. But for somebody who says they have a word from God, I don't know if Dave is able to find that ad. We played it a couple nights back. For you to be reminded of what Mr. Agard put out and what they are telling him, why they would say to him, don't be careful. Barbados, we asked the question, Barbados, what has happened with the guy scratching his head? I believe that what has happened is that we have put persons or a person in a position that we're not to put that person. We have allowed that person to take up a place and a space. We have given them that obeisance, that bowing and that deferring and all of that. We have given that a space in our hearts and in our minds. And you know what? We haven't realized it, you know. It has happened over 7 years. To the point where we believe, you can't. Well, number one, the great fear is on all over the country, as he says that an uneasy fear and anxiety sitting over Barbados. Is there fear sitting over you? Are you whispering? I remember speaking to someone in my development. I was walking early morning after 6, and they were talking to me, and every time they're talking, they're whispering. We're in St. Philip near the sea, walking. Why are you whispering? There's nobody on the road but the two of us and my husband. We're walking, and the man is whispering because he's talking about what, me and Motley. What has happened to us? I say to Barbados, let this night be a night of introspection. Who is the God in your life? What can Mia Motley do to you? Dave, is this the ad? Thank you so much.
Something good gonna happen in this year.
Hi, I'm ADRIAN AGARD. To my beloved Barbados, God has heard your cries. He sees the pain and the blood of our sons. On Friday, March 20th, I left for St. Vincent and the Grenadines with a group of 8 gifted musicians and singers. There in St. Vincent, the Lord gave me a message for this land. I returned on Monday, and now I must speak. Join me this Saturday from 6 p.m. at Independence Square at the national launch of Barbados Gospel Fest 2025. God is speaking, Barbados. It's time to listen.
Blessings gonna find me here. Oh yeah. Favor gonna find me here. Oh yeah.
what is in that message that he's put out? He paid money, put those ads out. What is in that message that would say to someone would be saying to ADRIAN AGARD after putting out a simple ad like that, be careful. Be careful, ADRIAN. Be careful. What about that? Are you afraid of Mia Mottley? Are you walking in that fear of Mia Mottley? Are you worried that she's going to do something to your family? Are you worried about your own life? About that of your children? About your job? What about Mia Mottley that you're so afraid of? What is it? What is it? Barbados, the Lord has been the people's guide for the past 300 years. With him on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. What has happened to us, Barbados? We have put idols. We have lifted up the Prime Minister as an idol. And we say she is so shrewd as a politician. And people they say, man, watch her again. She's going to get another 30 love, She's going to give them another 30 love. Licks like peas. You don't know our Prime Minister. She is shrewd. You have elevated her. Be careful. Be careful. You might be doing her a disservice, because once you elevate somebody above God, the only place for them to go is down. They will fall right down on their faces. Whoever you put up there will fall down on their face. We've seen her on the world stage, and because of the PR of that, we believe she is way above all of us, way above, and we have to look up, and and makes us afraid, and we bow down in our hearts, and we bow down in our minds, and we embrace the fear, because that's, you know what? That's why we don't come out on the marches. We don't come out. But tonight, I want us as adults, check ourselves. Check ourselves. How are we going to deliver Barbados if we are in all of that fear? There's somebody from the diaspora wrote something, and I'm just going to take probably a minute, Mr. Murray, or just 2 minutes, if you would allow me. I will actually bring Mr. Murray in the studio while I'm reading this, because she's a very always online, always watching, but tonight she wrote something, and I feel in my heart I must read it. Let me put Mr. Murray on as well while I read this. She says, can I offer something that weighs more heavily on me than Burkina Faso? She says, I fear that one day, if we don't wake up, we will be a nation that is owned by another nation. That if we don't get out from under the heavy cloud that hangs over us, we may be a nation in a state of anomie. It is so easy to see others because we don't have to look at ourselves. Are we happy because someone else is standing up? We fail to stand up for our lives and our rights. Yet we hope there is a savior who does the dirty work. He was nailed to a cross. Have we forgotten? That gives an understanding that sacrifice brings changes. It comes with the negative too. You are smeared in muck. There are attempts on one's character and threats on lives. And that is the price many are not willing to pay. It's the cross no one wants to carry. But far from the minefield, it becomes easier to rejoice in someone else's truth. We in Barbados have our own issues brewing in the 246. We whisper behind our hands or in silent groups. Hush, don't let them hear you say you could lose your job or the children may not get a pick. While the skin folk destroy our humanity, gun violence, poverty, child neglect and abuse, sexual assault against minors are threatening our ability to feel. We grow numb, or is it weary? Our cost of living leaves us with shallow breaths, and yet we say nothing. Silence also deafens us, because someone else will fix it. So God forgive me. If I remain in the briar patch, I would rather you will stand up for Barbados. I would rather the people speak on our own issues. A young man is standing up for his country, selfless and fearless. Who will stand for Barbados? Good night, Mr. Murray.
Good
Welcome
night.
to the Marcia Weekes Show.
Good night, and thanks for having me again. I could not add anything to that piece you just read. It says it's all, and it has been said very well. So I just let it stand for itself and speak for itself. Let it resonate on its own behalf. But I want to say that before I go into my topic tonight, which is, should we continue to trust the Electoral and Boundaries Commission? I'd just like to make a quick comment on the back page of today's Sunday Sun, which says $300 pay. I don't know if you saw it, but really it refers to the promised $300,
yes,
which the government pay as from the 14th of May.
Mm-hmm.
The government has been describing it as a solidarity allowance.
Mm-hmm.
The nation calls it a pay. I call it an attempted bribe.
Mm-hmm.
I say it's an attempted bribe. You would remember last week I talked about the advantage of incumbency.
Yes.
In which I point out the resources and the things that governments can go to in a by-election or in the election to boost their chance, to improve their image, to smooth out all the rough patches and make the society, the constituency or whatever better. This time, not normally done in a by-election. For the first time ever, I'm seeing it be an attempt on the whole country. A whole country. You remember I said too that a by-election really is a mini referendum on the whole country, where the whole country can cast its eyes and judgment on the constituency as being a microcosm of the whole society. So that if you follow the logic of that principle, if that is so, therefore you can understand why the government would seek to entice, bribe a whole country so that it won't be harsh and venting its feelings on the whole country when it's dealing with St. James North. That is how I feel. I see about it, because I think it's the most vulgar, obscene, politically obnoxious and crude attempt at manipulating public opinion I've seen in all my years in Barbados in any election, general or by election. It really, really is something to be abhorred. And $300. I think I heard Mr. Strawn say they're moving some $55 million from the corporate sector, corporate fund to pay for this. $55 million sounds like a lot of money, but at $300 with today's prices, that is not even a good week's groceries for most people. How can it last? What can be the long-term benefit? This is just a short-term. You know, in the old days, when they say when the white man, Europeans and the evangelists went into Africa, trinkets, marbles, and beads, and pretty glasses to entice and confuse the heads of the persons who were not accustomed to those kind of items. To me, this is the modern equivalent of that. You dangle a few dollars before a person's head, and voila, you have them enticed and confused. So I'm saying that we can do better than that. And I think it's very regrettable. It's for all those reasons that I thought I I know that is not a decision of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, but Electoral and Boundaries Commission is part of a process that will be culminated on the 21st of May. And they asked that question, should we still continue to trust the Electoral and Boundaries Commission with a very, very heavy heart? Thank you very much for showing the role of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Can you read it for me?
Yes, the role of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission is to maintain an accurate register for the national and electoral registration systems and to ensure the conduct of free, fair, and transparent elections.
Free, fair, and transparent. That's the hook line. And if you go to the other slide, the other slide shows it under the banner of the under the banner of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So that is their mantra, that is their motto, that is their goal: free, fair, and transparent election. But for the
this is the website you're showing, right?
The website of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Yes, and I think Dave also has the website. Yes, go
right.
Right,
so that's authentic. So prior to this occasion, prior to this set of circumstances, I like most Barbadians, I think, used to take elections in your stride. Barbados has had a very good and admirable reputation for free, fair, honest, open elections. Of course, you have minor issues, but there was nothing which seemed to have corrupted the core of the system that will cause you to discredit or doubt its authenticity. To the extent then that we have persons very often over the years been invited to join teams to go abroad and be observers and commentators of elections in Africa, in Europe. I think very recently the new chairman of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Mr. Ramon Allen.
Yes.
He said he went to Trinidad to observe. You don't impose yourself. You are invited by some organization to observe the elections. So, and you only do it because if you have a reputation of being fair and honest, that is what we used to have for many years. And the Electoral Boundary Commission has, it used to be called in the 1960s, we had the Chief Registering Officer. Then in 1971, it became the Electoral Department. And in 1985, it became the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So it's had various names and development. It became more sophisticated and complex over the years. At first, I think they were just dealing with ID cards and whatnot. So its role has been expanded, etc. And those have been able to maintain. They're the ones who operationalize. They make sure that all the processes are right. What happens in the election there is up to mark, meets the law, etc. And they're to be given, I think, an admirable report for that over the past years. And I think that was partly so because they're often headed by persons of public servants of integrity, respect, and trust. So the stature and image of the institution came from what the person's perception of the head. And those heads used to come and talk to the public. So there's a relationship between the public and the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which no longer exists since 2018.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't even know who are the other members. You barely know who was the chairman, and that kind of thing. And the reason why I'm asking this question is that you'll recall that around 21, 22, there was a great tumult in the country. There's deservedly so. When 21, 22, when during COVID, when the Electoral and Boundaries Commission published the names of the entire electoral list on the website, right? It contained details of person, date of birth, their addresses, the registration, the full works on the website, which made the whole country vulnerable to scam, identity theft, etc. And there was an uproar. We on this program also talked about it. We objected to it. And the then chairman, Mr. Leslie Haynes, who is now Chief Justice of Barbados, came to the public and was adamant that they were duty bound by law to publish it online. It had to be online. And everybody, he insisted to the point where, apart from that, was also the question where he refused to make any special arrangements for persons who were housebound or institutional bound to vote during COVID, to the extent that it was estimated some 5,000 people were disenfranchised in the such election. But he was very adamant that it was duty bound by law to publish those very critical details of personal life online. But then, only a few days ago, the new chairman of the current chairman, Mr. Ramon Allen, assured the public that there will be no electronic publication from the May 21st polling in St. James North. Let me repeat. The new chairman, Mr. Ramon Allen, he assured the public that there will be no electronic publication for May 21st for the polling in St. James, where the list for St. James North would not be published electronic. And here it is. Now, this is Mr. Ramon Allen. He's a senior counsel, just like Mr. Haynes was, who's no Chief Justice. So one would think they're equally and eminently qualified.
Right.
And here Mr. Allen went up, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Allen goes on. Meaning the list was papers on hard copy and has been published and is available for review at the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Bridgetown, the public library, and reviewing centers at the Gordon Greenwich Primary School. So he's saying it's not online, it's published, it's paper, and you can inspect it at those times, as had been the tradition, as had been the practice up until 21-22. So I asked the question, if as Mr. Haynes then said, that he was duty bound by law, and this is what Mr. Allen concluded, it will not be put out there online. So persons need not worry about that issue that might have arisen previously, said the chairman. Let me repeat it. It will not be put out there online. So persons need not worry about that issue that might have arisen previously. That's the current chairman. Now tell me, if it had been duty bound, if as the then chairman, Mr. Haynes had said, the commission was duty bound by law, I asked, on what basis has there been a change? If it was duty bound by law, I do not recall any issue being debated anywhere in the House or Senate or both of changing the law to accommodate this present thing. So I wonder, arrive at this conclusion? Do these two eminent senior counsels make their own judgments, the individual determination? Or I know these institutions always have their own counsel, their own retainers, their own consult, or did they consult to arrive at both Mr. Haynes' conclusion and Mr. Allen's? Was there consultation with the Solicitor General's or the Attorney General? So I'm just wondering, how do you have this divergent opinions on two men equally qualified in the same institution? It does not make sense to me. And I think it reflects something wrong within the commission. The commission is comprises three persons: a chairman and two persons nominated by the Prime Minister, and a deputy chairman and another person by the leader of the opposition. That has always been the format for that institution. And I am told it used to work fairly well because the tradition was the things were determined on consensus. If the divisions of opinion, divergent opinion, they discuss and argue until they hammer out something that's agreeable to the group. And it was not necessarily 3 against 2. I am told that in recent times that has not obtained, and that the commission has not been meeting. We don't hear anything from it. We hear the statements from the chairman, but the chairman has never yet come and introduced himself to the public as the chairman of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So the public builds a relationship of trust and understand that you begin to relate to the person and how they present themselves in the case, and you validate them as the people where this free, fair, and transparent. Free, fair, and transparent. We have not been having transparency at all from the Electoral and Boundaries Commission for long. So I'm saying, therefore, we have to ask questions, and I think this is the same commission that is going into the St. James North by election, and we have to make sure that all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. We should not take anything for granted, and I think that we have to even start to review the role of the commission, its future, and we cannot just settle for the past, because the past political culture in which that commissions operate no longer exists. The culture, the practice. I think we have a government that's more transactional. I think what you're seeing now with that $300, it represents a carefully choreographed political dance, right? Starting from the budget, starting from the resignation of Mr. Hinkson, coming on to the selection of Mr. Blackman, nomination day, the period, and it's all carefully choreographed with the election day on the 21st of May. It cannot be, I do not believe in coincidences, never, ever, especially in politics, that on the 14th, a week before the election, that you're having this $300 bribe, attempted bribe to the public. I think why did it come in July, August, when people have to go back, how to leave it back to school, and we have that extra cash to get with the children? Why in the middle of a by-election? To me, it's becoming a Barbados, and it's something that we have to watch very carefully, and we should do what we can to protect. And we should demand that not only the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, all the other institutions which are supported by the taxpayers and have to be financed by the taxpayer and are supposed to be accountable to the come and answer questions from the press and from people so we know what they think is it, not just issue statements and decrees and decisions, and we have to live with it like Olympic as you've had to do in the past. I think we need more. We demand more in that regard.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to more of that coming out in the by-election. Not that there has not been any politics in the round of the commission, of course, because it's a political institution doing political role. So you'd find politics being played. But from what I understand, there were standards and limits and methods by which things were done in the past that are not and protected the overall integrity of the institution to ensure that it was not consumed by narrow political partisanship that therefore defeated its own purpose and ate out its maw, its claw, its guts, and its heart and soul. And I think we need to go to make sure that because it's a very important institution. This one of the few institutions, we took for granted, we thought everything was fine. But now we have to begin to ask questions about this as we do about the Ministry of Education, about Parliament, any other institution in Barbados. We have to question this one too, as any other one. I don't think it's always operating in our interest, because no an institution is only as good, not its constitutions, in terms of reference, its legal scope, its motto, its goal is by the people who run it, their values, their goals, and the culture in which it's operated. And therefore, that is what we have to keep our eyes on.
Dave has up here, the red Kool-Aid. And that's what they think that they're doing with this $300. All the gimmicks that they are they're putting on the people at this time, as you said, right in the middle of the election. It's for you to drink the red Kool-Aid. And I love the fact that Barbadians are waking up, Mr. Murray. I see a lot of things being passed around and people recognize what it is. And they very well know, Mr. Murray, that this distributing of this money, it is impossible for it to not run into the election period. If you're starting it on the 14th, it's not going to take a week for all of Barbados to get this money, Mr. Murray. So they know very much, even during election, that they will be distributing $300 to the people in St. James North. I want people to wake up and, Mr. Murray, as you're saying, and recognize what is happening. I think if we had a functioning, this is my view, and you can correct me. I think, if I'm wrong, I think that if we had a functioning Electoral and Boundaries Commission that is supposed to be ensuring a free, fair, and transparent elections, they could have been seriously asking questions about this $300 at this time, because while we don't know for sure, it gives the impression that it's not fair and it's not free and it's not transparent. And because if you're going to the ruling party up until during election, because we do administration, Mr. Murray, we understand that there's no way it's going to be finished before the 21st, the distribution, right?
That's right. That's right.
I don't see it finishing before that.
It's a shameless act. I've never seen a government even come close to doing this to try to influence an election. But is it the Prime Minister so afraid of the possible verdict of the in this by-election, in this referendum, that she has to go to this extent to make sure that her government can put money in people's hands to ensure they try to soften what they think any negative fallout? I would hate to think so, but to me, it's shameless. It's carefully constructed and choreographed. It's like a dance. You're a dancer, Marcia. You know how you choreograph the moves, the steps, etc.
Yeah.
And this is political dance, for the most obscene reasons being put to us. It makes me wonder. What will happen on election day.
That's what I'm here. I'm actually.
It makes me wonder.
I'm wondering if inside of St. James North they're going to have a whole something set up for people to come to collect this $300. And I am appealing to
No. I was thinking about the money that changes hand on
That's
election
what I'm
day.
saying.
Not this $300. I think the last election in 2018 or 22. I think the $300 is the going rate for a vote. Then I think that's the figure I heard for the people on the blocks and on.
How much did you say? About how much did you say? The people on the street is saying $300, and how much are they giving to each person? $300, Mr. Murray.
So some people might get 600 then. 300 from 300 through the check, and another check on the day cash for the exchange of your ID card to show that you voted. That's how the transaction takes place on election day. That's what I'm talking about. And the price will therefore go up.
The other point that you made, Mr. Murray, while we wait on our other guests, Miss McCLEAN is supposed to be coming in anytime now. You said something, and I wondered if we stopped. A very important point. And since you said it to me today, I've been thinking about it. Barbadians, stop and think about what I'm about to say. Just reiterating something Mr. Murray said. Mr. Murray said, if we had two astute lawyers, one was Mr. Leslie Haynes, who in 2020, is it 2020, Mr. Murray?
21, 22, yeah. 21, 22.
2022, said that by law, he has to publish the all of our data online. Okay, this is what it was said, that he's following the law.
He was adamant about that.
He was adamant. I remember the discussion. He was adamant. Barbadians, listen, we are children of Barrow. We are intelligent. Can we listen, please? Mr.
I'm a child of Grantley Adams.
Child of Grantley Adams. Okay, no problem.
And Grantley has expanded the secretary by the new secretaries. Parks and Grantley. So,
there's others who say they are children of Barrow. A lot of Barbadians. So so either Barrow or Grantley Adams. The point is that we are educated Barbadians, okay? And if one astute lawyer, Mr. Leslie Haynes, we give him that. He is now the justice. Is now the chief justice
of Barbados.
He's the Chief Justice of Barbados, and he said he was following the laws by putting out our data online. As the chairman of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Now, he's given up that post and he's been elevated as Chief Justice. Now, by this same government, now the government has assigned Mr. Ramon Allen, who is now an amazing lawyer. Okay? And he is saying to Barbadians, be assured, Barbados, this commission will not put out your put your information online. We will not publish it online. When did the law change?
That's right.
That's what Mr. Murray is saying. And I want, especially those who came to the class late, I just want to reiterate that. When did the law change? What is the difference between Mr. Leslie Haynes's interpretation and Ramon Harris?
Aline.
Aline.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to add my question here. If it's the same law that they both were looking at, what was the reason? What could be the reason? What could have been the reason for the divulging, the displaying, the producing of our information, our private information online? All electorate, everything was put online. Why?
In addition to that, Marcia, I think that in light of the contradiction, the divergence between the two eminently qualified persons in the same position on the so-called law or the non-law, I think a way should be found. We should have a way to make Mr. Haynes come and give justification for a decision then. And if he's wrong, apologize to the country. Those kind of things should not be allowed to go unanswered and accounted for in the society. It's a dangerous precedent. And this is Mr. Ramon Aline. And it makes me wonder if that could happen, if that contradiction can happen and it comes out in the public on an issue, what else there might that be that might have been contradictions or whatever, broken up the laws, whatever it is, making up the law, interpreting law that we do not know about because they're not yet apparent in the public. It makes you wonder, how do you explain the divergence?
Yeah, well, somebody says if the law has not changed, could it just be a decision of proper judgment on Mr. Aline's part? But I think what that's a fair question, Judith, that he comes to the public and explain this is very serious because the law is a law and is either one of them then is breaking the law.
Right. If one
Somebody is breaking the law.
If Mr. Haynes and his judgment was upholding the law as he said, if Mr. Aline's come with a contrary position, he would technically be breaking the law, and they would not expect a senior counsel like Mr. Aline, on a matter of his eminence in the law, to break the law, to knowingly and deliberately break the law. So explain the factor between the two to me. That's my contention.
It is something that we really need to think of. Did one party was at an advantage by this this information being put out on the web? Was it, or did they sell our data? What really happened? Is this something in the hands of the Chinese? I'm not Mr. Murray asking, I'm asking. Is this in the hands of the Chinese people that it's alleged that's running the people behind the scenes with the BLP campaign?
But Marcia, it haven't been put online. It's available to any and everybody. Chinese, the Americans, the Russians, anybody. It is there for fair game. That's why I've been so baffled as to what would get. For all my years, I know you'd go, if you want a copy, you go and pay for a copy, a hard copy, and you check in your constitutive branch or the party headquarters, or you go and look at it like it is being done. And all of a sudden, this law emerged, you had to publish it online. And I think in those days when that law was done, there was probably no online publication. There's probably no online. You have to look at the dates carefully. This online came last 20 years or so. So one has to wonder, on what basis did you decide? And what was it? What was the consensus? What was the decision of the commission as a group? What role did the administration of the commission play? Because administrators are professionals of the public servants who are the institutional memory, who are very familiar with the operations of the law, and they're supposed to help guide the board members who are political appointees. And in addition, they have access to legal advice and consultants and retain persons. So therefore, there's no excuse for this kind of contradiction as far as I'm concerned.
No, but it is a very, for me, I am taking it because if it is I believe these gentlemen are good lawyers, and why would one, it's such a it's not even that they said, okay, as you said, came and gave an explanation. The other one is saying, well, I'm not going to do it. So did anybody, was anyone disadvantaged then? Was any party disadvantaged? Did this disadvantage the BLP? Did it disadvantage the BLP? Did anybody gain an advantage from it? Is it because from last time when it was put out, there were lots of people asking questions online. While everybody had access to it, was it for a particular group of people to do what they need to do with our data? It's just a question that is put out there.
Yeah. But frankly speaking, I've always been more concerned about the public at large, where every person on the board, listen, Barbados, has become a potential victim. They are vulnerable to scammers and thieves and identity thieves and all those miscreants in the part of the world, all the dishonest people. They have been made vulnerable, exceedingly vulnerable, through no fault of their own. They had no say in it. It was done to them, not even on their behalf, to them. And I'm saying, how come they're 1% is duty bound by law, and the other person is acting if there was that same law? I do not. Yeah, one of the legal kids would have to explain that to me, because as a man who only went to school in August on every Saturday, I do not understand it.
But my mind is taking me beyond that. Nobody, these people are too smart. That they are too smart. There's somebody benefited from that, somebody. And time will tell. Well, we're going to move. Thank you so much, Mr. Murray, for that segment. And we are going to move. We're going to continue to talk about the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And in this segment, we're going to have a discussion. We're hoping for Miss McCLEAN is here, and she's going to join us in a moment. And later on in the program, Mr. CASWELL FRANKLYN is going to join us as well. Just before I welcome Miss McCLEAN to the program, I want to there is a document that I need to read. Good. Thank God I found it. I thought I had misplaced it. And if Dave could find it in his and put it up. But this is an article in the Barbados Today. And it was published on November 27, 2024. And we're going to have our discussion tonight around the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This is going to be the foundation of our discussion tonight. As we ask some questions tonight, is there political interference in the Electoral and Boundaries Commission? We're going to ask some questions tonight. Okay, so here we go. This is the article, November 27, 2024. The CRC, this is a commission, the Constitution Reform Commission, says the PM should have no power to amend constituency boundaries in the new constitution. So listen, Barbados. So this is the Constitution Reform Commission. Remember that the government had put that commission in place? Yes. And right. They are now, repeat please. I'm sorry. And they are now making recommendations. The Prime Minister may lose the power to unilaterally redraw constituency boundaries as the Constitutional Reform Commission proposes changes to strengthen the independence of the Electoral Boundaries Commission. the Prime Minister may lose unilaterally the power to unilaterally redraw constitution boundaries. If the recommendations are accepted, the first constitution for a Republic Barbados would transfer key powers from the minister responsible for electoral affairs, currently the PM, to the EBC. In its final report after months of public consultation on the supreme law of the land, the CRC proposes changes to the method of appointing the chairman and deputy chairman of the EBC, as well as adjustments to the procedure for revising constituency boundaries. I'm going to give you all a moment because I would like for you to take a couple notes for me. I'm serious. Write down something. Right? I wanted to take a moment and to write for me, make some notes, because that's going to be very, very important for in the discussion that we're going to have. Okay. The EBC is currently constituted in a bipartisan fashion. The chairman with the chairman and two other members appointed on the advice of the Prime Minister, after consultation with the leader of the opposition, and the deputy chairman and one other member appointed on the advice of the opposition leader after consultation with the Prime Minister. So that's why they say it's bipartisan. And Mr. Murray just told us that there are 5 members, 3 by the government, 2 by the leader of the opposition, and in each case, there is consultation with either party. The bipartisan spirit which characterizes the composition of the EBC is commendable, given this commission's recommendation for the creation of a constitutional office commission. The commission consider it appropriate that the chairman and deputy chairman of the EBC should be appointed on the advice of this body. The CRC stated this in its 360-page report. This change, it added, would further secure the independence of the EBC by promoting genuine cross-party consultation in appointing its chair and deputy. The commission proposes that the Prime Minister continue to advise on the appointment of 2 other members and the leader of the opposition on one other member. And the leader of the opposition on one other member. The commission considered the 5-year term of members of the EBC to be acceptable and consequently recommends its retention. Okay? Under the current system, the EBC is required to prepare constituency boundary reports every 5 years. The document in which the EBC recommends whether or not alterations to the existing boundaries are needed is sent to the Prime Minister responsible, is sent to the Minister responsible for electoral affairs, who is the Prime Minister. So listen, if you're taking notes, the document in which the EBC recommends whether or not alterations to the existing boundaries are needed, that document is sent to the Prime Minister. In instances where the EBC recommends alterations, the minister must lay before Parliament a draft of an Electoral and Boundaries Commission order to give effect to the recommendations, right? And it goes on, all right? It is a long article, but I think it's important. So I'm going to read some more of it. The commission was not convinced that the role and involvement of the minister responsible for electoral affairs was necessary in this process. They did not think that the Prime Minister should be involved in this process, and they recommended that the Prime Minister is not involved. Firstly, the commission felt that the EBC should send its boundaries report straight to Parliament rather than via the Prime Minister. This is not novel and is done for other reports of similar independent institutions, such as the Auditor General's report. Secondly, the commission did not agree that the minister or the prime minister should be able to unilaterally amend the draft order with parliament and with parliamentary approval, set boundaries on their own. Especially in this case when they have 29. This was particularly so where the minister is the prime minister and therefore commands a majority in parliament. Now listen, folks, do you agree with this? The commission cited the example of the first reported support submitted by the EBC in 1989, which recommended increasing the number of constituencies from 27 to 28. While the EBC's recommendation was supported by members appointed by the Prime Minister and opposition leader, the draft order was rejected by the House of Assembly. The minister responsible for electoral affairs at the time subsequently revised the draft order to set different boundaries. The issue was not settled until about 10 months before the general election in January 1991. The commission added the minister responsible for electoral affairs, the prime minister, has one of the greatest interests in the ultimate delimitation of the boundaries. Who has the greatest interest? The prime minister. The commission agrees with the ancient maxim that a man should not be a judge in his own cause. This is the commission that is saying that the man should not be a judge in his own cause. These were recommendations that were sent from the commission, concerning the EBC. What will they will they be adapted? Right? For these reasons, the report stated, the commission recommends that the power of the minister revise the order unilaterally be discontinued. They recommend that the power of the minister to revise the order unilaterally be discontinued. Instead, where either house rejects the order, the EBC must revise the order, taking account of the sentiment of the house which rejected it. The revised order would then be laid again in both houses. This approach ensures that the parliament still has an oversight role and is able to reject the recommendations of the EBC, but it also protects the integrity of the process by ensuring that the EBC, through its professional process, retains the power to amend the order. Okay? Now, I know it was long, but I thought that we needed to, we really needed to hear that and to understand that. Let me just bring Miss McCLEAN in. Good night, Miss McCLEAN. Welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show.
Hi, good evening to you and GLYNE and the listeners.
Good evening,
I hope
Maxine.
you hear me. Okay, you're hearing me. Good.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's a pleasure having you tonight. And tonight we are looking at whether there is political interference in the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and will that, if there is, could it possibly affect the St. James North by-election that is coming up? Ms. McCLEAN, you've just joined us, and I know you were listening, and you would have read that. We sent that out to you today, but probably taking notes. I want to ask you, first of all, Ms. McCLEAN, do you think that there is, with the way that the Electoral Boundaries Commission is set up, is presently set up at the moment, should an independent body and not politicians control boundary reviews? Do you think that an independent body, not politicians, should control boundary reviews?
Marcia, before I get there, because I think we got to be careful that we don't pull out something that is not critical right now. And I say that because if you look at the Constitution, it speaks to the process by which it's supposed to happen. So if the process is followed, but more importantly, if the office of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission is allowed to function with proper staff, following the rules and all of these things, then you should, let me finish the statement and then get back to your question. If that is allowed to happen, then we should not have major problems. When you say should politicians be allowed to do it, I am not sure what you mean. Whoever controls the delineating of boundaries has to function with a clear set of rules that are objective, that are followed, and if followed, you would have fairness, because you may remove, quote unquote, something from Parliament and put it in the hands of private citizens. But trust me, if you look across this landscape, private citizens also have their political allegiances. So to me, the critical thing is that, yes, you want independence. And part of ensuring independence is not only the composition of that commission, but the establishing of a clear set of rules, guidelines, laws, etc., that are supported by proper administrative structures, which allow the commission and the office of the commission to function. And I would speak more to that if I'm given a chance. So my answer to your question is, it is not a simple yes or no, because at the end of the day, depending on who you appoint, if that collection of persons are not guided by, do not adhere to proper objective guidelines which are transparent, we can end up in the same situation or worse. So I don't know if you understand the point.
Yeah,
I think that is
thanks for your comment, Mr. Murray. My question to you, sir, is: do you agree with the Constitution Reform Commission that they propose that the PM should not have the power to amend constituency boundaries in the new constitution? Do you agree?
Yeah, not unilaterally, but just let me say that fixing of boundaries, realigning of boundaries is a controversial process and subject wherever it happens to the world. Hence the process of gerrymandering, where you manipulate the boundaries to carve out certain strong persons to the personal control and limit, and you increase the strength of the weaknesses of your opponents and increase strength of yourself. That's the basic objective, gerrymandering. And some people are very, very good at it. But the reason, I think, McCLEAN, the reason for changing of boundaries, there used to be a theoretical number of about 10 to 11,000 persons, a formula that would decide the size of a constituency. So you'd make a judgment supposedly to keep that formula in vogue, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, whatever it was. So you make a judgment if over a period of time, one part of a constituency grows per the year, you might have to harvest off to retain population balance. But that has been misused and misapplied and abused several times over. But like I said there, and McCLEAN is making a point, the institution is only as good as the people who run it administratively, professionally, and the members of the board. If the members of the board or the political leadership of the commission seek to dominate, and if the strength of the administration cannot withstand that, or are not prepared to withstand that, again, you have problems. So you need goodwill, good character, integrity on both sides to make the system function as it should be. Not that people would not try things, but the culture and the practice and the tradition of the institution that might be able to withstand almost anything that's coming at it, and also have opportunity to go public to expose anything that's going to attempted to make wrong with it to protect its own integrity.
Yeah, but I'm still going back to the commission's the recommendation, because I think they were not necessarily talking about I mean, what they were saying is that they would recommend that they keep the 3 and 2, and that, you know, the prime minister recommends their 3 and the opposition their 2. The part that they were particularly concerned about is when the recommendations has to first,
Right.
the change of the boundaries have to first go to the prime minister, and then goes to the to the house. So that is the piece that the CRC is spotting and saying, hold a minute, how do you how are you allowing the same man to judge a state that way, that's depending on the outcome? And I think that is really what the CRC is
And
speaking.
I agree with that. I agree with that in principle. But on the same hand, life being what it is, if you might have a different composition, same 5 members, 3 recommended by the Prime Minister, 2 by the leader opposition, by the opposition side, and a person might not be unilaterally, might be safe, but so influence the personnel that still have his wishes. So I'm saying you have to protect, you have to try to ensure as humanly possible the integrity of the process, the system, and the persons who man it. Am I making any sense, Maxine, to you?
No, I agree with you. And I could agree that you can go straight to Parliament. And that is an important procedure. But understand also that you have in Parliament, in the case of a majority, a group of members of Parliament, many of whom, in this case, if I use the current situation, constitute the cabinet and may take decisions depending on the person the prime minister is. So I'm not saying we shouldn't look at that, but I'm saying that by itself, and is an important position to take, but that by itself does not ensure integrity. And if I have the chance to give some illustrations as it applies now in terms of the process, then you would see what I mean when I say it's important that at the level of operations and administration and day-to-day functioning, you can have a commission which follows those guidelines. But if you have poor implementation or weak managers or the absence of managers or key positions, you can have a situation.
Or ardent political appointees in those key positions.
Exactly. And if I could use quickly, Marcia, an example, because you were talking about, we have a by-election right now. And if you go back and check, I wasn't able to pull up all the dates, but if you go and look at what happens from the announcement of an election or by-election and public notices, etc., there are timelines that are followed. And I can tell you categorically, for example, there was a resignation in Parliament on the 22nd of April. And normally in a case like that, you would see public notices coming out within a day or two. Notices came out in the press 8 days later. 8 days later. And that is abnormal. For the longest while, and part of that might have had to do with the voters list. For the longest while, people were trying to get a current voters list. And I can tell you that until very recently, and I believe they might have indicated one is available now, but since 2022, you could not get an updated voters list 3 years later. And every month or every year for sure, people move from 17 to 18. So for example, if you wanted to get a current list of persons qualified to vote, and I use St. James North because that's going on now, you could not get it until very recently, if it has, and I think one has finally been made available. So when you talk about disadvantages, that constitutes one, so in essence, the translation of the objectivity and transparency at the level recommended by the commission, and I stress the word recommended because those recommendations must be adopted by government for them to be put in place, will only see the maximum benefit when we have systems in place that do things properly.
Well, Maxine, I think it's important to point out that aberration, that situation where you could not get up to date, is unusual. That is not the norm. That has not been the tradition. These things will come out routinely on time, step by step. So therefore, it means that it has to be a reflection of the administration of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, or the misadministration for whatever reason. In addition, are there reports there on the 22 elections?
They might finally have had one, but those things come out pretty soon after. Again, GLYNE has just pointed out, Marcia, something very critical, that there are processes that occur before an election, during an election, and after an election. And the proof of the pudding, so to speak, is in the delivery of those processes, or the undertaking and completion of those processes in a timely manner. I mentioned the issue of the updating of the register. Now, let's assume, for example, that a register was updated and not shared with the opposition parties. In this case, we have one party contesting. A list is very critical to canvassing, because you need to know who is on that list. You need to know, because, for example, you take up a list and you look at the persons who would have joined the list of voters post 2022, people who turned 18 after. But if you don't have that list, then you would have to find some more complicated ways of finding out that John Brown's son or daughter turned 18 a month after the previous election, or turned 18 2 months ago, and you want to make sure that that person, if he or she has not registered to vote, that they do so. So when you talk about disadvantages, that's the kind of thing, you know. And
Okay.
mhm.
All right.
If I may just add, Marcia,
No,
in addition
just
to that,
before you go, Mr. Murray, Mr. Franklin is here, and I just want to bring him into the studio, and he's going to be participating in this discussion tonight. So let me just welcome Mr. Caswell Franklin to the Marcia Weekes Show. Great
to
have
see you, my brother and neighbor.
Yeah, good night, everyone. It's good to
good
be
night,
here.
Caswell. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Everybody
Always good to see you.
in the comment section there, tell me, I want to hear Mr. Franklin. I didn't tell them you were coming at the start, you know, but they're saying they want to hear. And, you know, before we go in, I know you're here specifically to talk about the prison situation at the prison, but I did say once you're coming early, we will take some of the time to ask you to join in this discussion. So Mr. Murray was making a point, and then we're going to go to Mr.
Maxine was talking about new voters coming on the list and the importance of knowing them. From my experience, good political parties used to make a special effort to approach those first-time voters. In fact, you send them a special letter, a special card, something to acknowledge them, to welcome them, to make them feel wanted and important, to guide them in the way of electioneering and voting, to let them understand the important role that they play. So the knowledge of that list down to the new voters is a very important aspect of electioneering.
Yeah. Mr. Franklin, as you're just joining us, my question to you, do you think the EBC is truly neutral?
Marcia, no ECB has ever been neutral. It wasn't designed to be neutral. It was designed to give the governing party an advantage in the elections. The ECB should never be appointed.
In what way?
Okay. The ECB, Electoral and Boundaries Commission, was the creation of the Barbados Party government, and it was intended, or supposedly intended, to make elections free and fair. They have never done so. First off, if they really wanted to be fair, the politicians should not be the persons appointing the people at the ECB and the electoral office, because that is a sham. We've had elections where the chief electoral officer had been temporary for so long. And if you're a temporary officer and you don't please the government, you know, out goes you. So it doesn't make sense having these structures in place and staffing them with politicians. I have actually worked with a person in an election campaign, and then that person became the chairman of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. It's ridiculous. Now watch, the government appoints 3 people, and the opposition 2. The government appoints the chairman, and the deputy chair comes from the opposition. But when there is, and like now, we should have meetings, but if the chair isn't there, the deputy chair is supposed to take the seat. They will have a meeting. They refuse to have meetings because the chairman of the meeting now would be a person appointed by the opposition. So they can't have that. and the Electoral and Boundaries Commission has not been meeting.
But hold a minute there, Mr. Franklin, because we were doing a little discussion among all of us here. So, Miss, you heard that, Miss McCLEAN, and I saw you smiling because my understanding is if you have a deputy, and the chairman is not around, then there should be meetings. I've done my own research this morning, and I was made to understand that they've had few meetings because, like in a case where, you know, if the chairman, in this case, Mr. Ramon Allen, is out of the island or very busy doing something else, there's no meeting. What are your thoughts? I mean, you've sat on so many boards and so on, Miss McCLEAN. What are your thoughts on that?
That is a standard way of doing business. But I turn to this because there's a bigger version of the one. This was given to me when I was sitting on the Parliamentary Reform Commission. And there's the Constitution of Barbados. And beyond good business practice of, you know, if you have a board and the chair is absent, as long as you have a quorum, the deputy will chair and decisions are made and you go on. This speaks to these matters. The Constitution speaks to the matters. And I was going to find the section and read it because I was looking at it here. For example, it is at section 441A, Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Section 41(8) of the Constitution?
Yeah, Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And then it says, whenever a member, and it talks about the chairman being absent and so on, okay? If the chairman is, and this is section 41A(7), and it says, if the chairman is unable by reason of his illness or for any other reason to perform the functions of his office, which of course includes chair meetings, the deputy chairman shall perform the functions of that office. And so it is here in English, basic English that we understand. But clearly, and I have heard that because, and I've sought to check it, and I understand that there might have been as many as 9 meetings called, intended, and the chairman can come, so none of them took place. Now, decisions have to be made. Instructions have to be given.
Yes, and to be clear, so that people understand, because I'm just learning about it. The chairman is recommended and by the ruling party, and the deputy chair was recommended by the opposition. So let's be clear so that people understand the dynamics of what is happening. Mr. Murray, your take on that?
My understanding is that what should be the norm and the practice generally obtained in the past, so what I understand. But virtually since 2018, there's been this abnormality where the deputy chairman had not been allowed to chair meetings. And therefore that has been frustrating and postponing the whole operation, the whole quality of work done by the Electoral and Boundaries Commission as reflected in some of the decision making. I don't know if that's been your experience, CASWELL.
Well, that is my information.
Right.
Well, I'm not on the board, but I'm telling you, it's a situation where nothing then gets done because the Electoral and Boundaries Commission is supposed to put out election report. Have you seen the election report for the last election yet?
I asked the same question earlier.
But I have not seen it, and I collect reports going way back from 1956. I have all the election reports except 1971. I have all from 1956. I'm a collector of those things, and I can't get one yet. You know why? Then do it. So,
which is unforgivable. Also, that is breaking the law because the representation of the people's demands and require that.
But also, I heard when I came in, I heard you talking about new voters. It is an automatic process for those people because you register your child when the child is
at birth,
born or whatever, and the electoral they give you a little yellow card and save your ID, and then eventually when you get 16, you can get your ID card. So you go and get your ID card, and then you're registered to vote. But you can't vote yet. You got to wait till 18. So when you become 18, you go on automatically. But the list, according to the law, must be published by the 31st of January every year.
Right.
Right? So that's the
Routinely.
requirement. That's the requirement of the law. The
Routinely.
Electoral and Boundaries Commission must publish the list. But
You ask for it and nothing happens.
But you have to provide a list. You can't have an election without a list.
Mm.
Now, the other thing is that with the list, because they also take off names as people die. Now, they have what they call revising centers, where you go to either check that your name is on or to signal that changes have to be made. Now, the question is, these things are supposed to happen in a certain sequence once you, in anticipation of election and so on, or in a case like this where you have a by-election. Now, my understanding, I have to check and see whether this is the case. And normally, the revision ends before or on the day of nomination. Either GLYNE or CASWELL can correct me if I'm wrong. That's my recollection. But my understanding is that these revision centers will continue after the nominations and so, which happens to be on Common Entrance Day, actually, the 6th of May. You know, so it clearly, Marcia, from what you've heard from GLYNE, from what you've heard from CASWELL, some of what I've said, there are major deviations from the traditional practices and processes that are followed by the electoral office and the work of the commission.
Right. Mr. Murray, thank you, Ms. McCLEAN. Mr. Murray, do you think that there should be some kind of public oversight or independent audits? Would that make a difference, Mr. Murray, to what is happening right now with the EBC?
I think if you had a commission that reported directly to Parliament, that's where the oversight can take place.
And not to the Prime Minister, but
not to the Prime Minister.
Going straight, right.
Just like the Auditor General.
I am not with you on that one, GLYNE. I'll tell you why. Parliament still has the Prime Minister and the Speaker and whatever reports, and they might not bring them on time. That is a committee that commission should be appointed by the President and her, whatever her or him, whatever the case may be, their deliberate discretion and using her judgment about the people she knows in the country, like how she appoint independent senators, then that person should be independent. Because as I told you, I have been in a situation where I have worked on an election campaign with a person who then became the head of the commission. He ain't going to stop being a B because he's on the commission, or stop going to be a dem because he's on the commission now. And people say, you know, I'm not saying they don't have any integrity, but what you want is to have it look like there's integrity.
Yeah.
So when there's the semblance of bias, that is enough to quash the whole thing. You want it to look right, you know. You don't want a situation where it looks like it is biased. Then if it looks like it is biased, it's biased. Because
by public perception, right. My thing is that I am making this on the assumption that you put quality people up, competent people in the position. If that happens, then you improve the chances of a credible job being done. I think you must have a basis of competent and honest people who can do the job.
You know that don't really happen. You put people who support your party, and then the government puts 3 people in place. There are 2 from the opposition, there are 5 people on the thing. The opposition will always be voted, even if it is a good thing.
But I am told in the past that there have been one of the things that when Marcia, you talk about the length of time person being appointed to the commission is 5 years. They used to overlap elections.
Yes.
So that is that was deliberately done so that the commission not changed with every administration. So you carry on a tradition, a practice outside of the narrow limits of power by election results. So that is what I want to bet. And to me, for what I'm told, that obtained religiously for a long time. There was respect for the system, the tradition, the convention until 2018. That's the point. Until things went awry or had been going right.
Things have been,
but
things have been arrived from the time they came up with this formula. That it will never work. Let's the only time it works is if let's say you appoint a commission this month, and then your term of office ran out somehow, then and lose the election. Then you got people now who are supporting the opposition, the former opposition. They have 3 people, and then the government got 2. So you will have a situation where the people who are supporting the opposition are in the majority. But what happens? They don't got the elections around them time. You wait till the people they run up, then you appoint somebody, then you get elections.
But I think, Marcia, what you really want, if you're talking about true objectivity and transparency and so on, would be a situation, CASWELL suggested appointment by the president in the president's own right, independent of any consultation with prime minister or leader of the opposition, appointing those persons. And that is where the notion of, the public citizens becoming involved. But even with a solid commission, those 5 persons or whatever size you decide to have it, unless that commission is supported by a staff capable, competent, professional, and all of that to do, because you see, if you have that level of independence that is anticipated in CASWELL's recommendation, it has to be supported by a commission that is going to go into the office and say, this is your role and function. You will do it. We will follow through. Because at the end of the day, you may have a commission with all good intentions, but if you have a situation where the selection, promotion, and everything of the staff is outside of their control and subject to the whims and fancies of a prime minister and a cabinet, you still on the ground will have challenges. So I think there's a marriage of the 2 things that is absolutely necessary.
The Electoral and Boundaries Commission only employ the registering officers. Mm-hmm. All the others are civil servants, and you know what happens in civil service? The politicians get their hand on the people and they decide who they want. And if you have some person that you don't know what their politics, you make them temporary. We've had elections where temporary officers were responsible for the election process. Now, I'm a temporary officer, and I can be a temporary officer after the election. Now, if my party wins and I have to take action against them during the campaign, you know what happened to me? I ain't going to be temporary no more. I can be reverted to the position I was in, and somebody else can come up. So, officer, and this is happening throughout the public service. If you look, this government, and only this government, in my entire history of the working in public service, and I started in 1980, 2nd of January 1980. I've never seen it like this before, where they tried, first of all, they create a lot of statutory boards where the ministers can call the chairman and say, I want A, B, or C to be my friend or whoever they call them. And next thing you know, that person is appointed because they don't go through the commissions. Now, with the constitutional amendments in 1974 that came effective on the 1st of January 1975, those amendments say the prime minister should be consulted on appointments at the higher level. Permanent secretary, deputy permanent secretary, heads of departments, deputy heads of department.
Yeah.
That now has been interpreted to mean that the prime minister decides who these people are.
Who these people are. But before you go into that, Mr. Because I know you're going to deal with that when you're dealing with the prison as well. Mr. Murray, you had a point that you were making there on this, and you seemed like you had another point you were making on the system. Before we move, I pose my last question on this.
No, the point I was going to make is that from my understanding, my exposure to the system, even though people have been, even though the numbers are 3-2, over time, because of the overlapping of commissions and the retention of persons, they develop a collegiality and understanding and respect for you, whereby even your parties and differences only went so far and did not color and frustrate the whole thing corrupt. I think that is what is missing, right? I think that's what has gone awry since 2018, where that kind of cooperation, respect, mutual cooperation, and understanding that why I'm being ready, there's a commission, there's an election, that we have to curtail our partisanship for the good of the country and the commission. I think that has gone through the edges,
Yeah.
so to speak.
So that's one of the things that we no longer have that kind of respect and so on. But I hear also what the commission is saying. This is the Constitution Reform Commission is saying, and what CASWELL is saying, that you also need to look at the system, like just how do we approve boundaries, changing of boundaries and so on, and how things are, the role of the prime minister in all of that. I think we have to look, in my opinion, we need to look at all of that. We need to look at the quality of the persons that are of people that are employed or that are are chosen to be part of the commission. What qualities? It's a number of things. We might have to look at doing some kind of, Ms. McCLEAN was talking about it, probably an independent audits. I think that's what she was saying. People coming in to do checks and so on. So it's a combination. But time is going so fast. But to kind of close off this segment, I was told it's alleged. It's alleged. I don't know if it is so. It hasn't come out by any other forms of media, that the former chief electoral officer, and I think it's I have the name, Ms. Angela Taylor, that electoral officer who has resigned.
Or retired.
Retired.
Thank you so much. Not resigned. Retired. That electoral officer, might be brought back in as a consultant. If so, what impact, perceived or real, could that have on the St. James North election? Because you already have somebody who is a chief electoral officer. However, the government, it's alleged that the government is going to go back for this Miss Angela Taylor to be the to offer advice or consultancy and so on. CASWELL, what are your thoughts on that? You're muted, CASWELL.
Yeah, sorry. This is stupidity at its highest, right? The government should not have any role in selecting any persons to run the election campaign, especially that unless they weren't feeling the candidate, and they are feeling. And mind you,
can't be the government. Can't be the government name.
No, but they should have no role.
Agreed.
In that process, because whatever you do, it will look as though the government stacking the deck against other people. That is what I'm saying. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission should be employing that staff, and the people should be appointed by the president. Keep the politicians out of getting the politicians, because right now, a politician will decide who will be chief electoral officer. That politician is the prime minister. You think the prime minister will pick somebody who is not favorable to her? I have not seen it happen anywhere else in the public service. Wherever you go now, you see heads of department being picked because of their political stripes. Mind you, not their ability.
Or school ties.
School ties are political stripes. I don't know. School ties.
Sometimes they go together. Marcia, though, I did some checking because, like you, I heard, and my understanding is that the former chief electoral officer was on pre-retirement leave since October last year, and would have officially retired, I suspect, at the beginning of last month. Now, I would expect that you don't get one day and retire. I mean, the organs of government of the public service who's responsible for personnel matter HR matters now is what you call it?
Ministry of Public Service now.
The Director General or something.
That department and those officers should know these things. And there's something called succession planning, but clearly I hear CASWELL, and I would never challenge most of what CASWELL says because he knows what he's talking about. But that I understand is the situation. Now my question is, what happened during the time that she was on pre-retirement leave? Somebody should have been acting. There should have been some preparation and identity. There are people who be working in the office who should know the systems and so on. I mean, and I would have hoped that somebody would have been acting. So the question really and truly, why have you got to bring back this person who retired, if my information is correct, a month and 3 days ago?
But Maxine,
now,
wait a minute, okay. That part, there's a new, I saw on the website, a new name as Chief Electoral Officer. There is a, not acting, Chief Electoral Officer. So what might be happening there now is what happened with the police. Remember, you brought in a former commissioner as a consultant.
So you had a commissioner and a commissioner.
Right. So I'm saying, but I did see, I did not retain the name, I did not remember the, but I did see a name of a person as signed as Chief Electoral Officer. There was no acting and brackets under the name. So I presume somebody has been actually appointed to that post.
No, let me see something.
She is retired. That person is retired.
Not Taylor.
Not Angela Taylor.
Okay, guys, let's have one person speaking at a time. And I think Mr. Franklin, go right ahead.
All right, let's say that the vacancy occurred not of retirement but death. Who would you bring back? You see the problem is, so the public service don't collapse because a person retires. You have people in the wings waiting, and I know there are competent and capable people in the electoral office, because I have worked with them over the years, and I've seen them work, and I remember several of them, even people who worked in there and then became returning officers, because the electoral, the resident officers then become returning officers in some cases, and they do marvelous work. It isn't that you need people that ain't got that experience. We've been doing this all along without bringing back retirees. I remember sometime we got about Dennis Smith, but again, that was unnecessary. You don't need to give these people training wheels. They were doing the job. They were doing all along. You think the last lady was there and she was doing everything herself? No. The people were there doing the work and she was signing off on it. So the people can do the work and let somebody else assist them. We don't need to bring back somebody. I tell you, it looks bad. It looks really bad when you and try to make people look incompetent. And the only way you have these incompetent people is when you want to bring politicians, When you bring your yard fowls,
that's the thing there.
Like GLYNE says, the Friends family and
Speaking of GLYNE, let me hear Mr. Murray. Go ahead, Mr. Murray.
The thing, I had the honor of being had their manager for the military service for nearly 9 years, and what CASWELL is saying is true. The strength of an institution or bureaucracy, it has persons to make. No institution will die because somebody is not there at work. It is a system meant to perpetuate itself, predictability, regularity, certainty, etc. And there are always people there with the ability. It's just that for various reasons, persons do not want to appoint those persons. But by it in itself, the persons are normally there. But this new feature of bringing back consultants, consultants like that, is a strong innovation by this present government because, again, it has its own aims to satisfy.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I mean, as I think CASWELL or Ms. McCLEAN, somebody says it looks bad. It looks bad on many fronts. It says that there was no succession planning. But it also could say that, you know what, we have a by-election. I'm saying it. Nobody else is saying it. Could it be that we have a by-election in St. James North, and we've got to get somebody there that is in our corner? Could it be saying that? We don't know. And right now it's alleged that this is what they're doing, and nothing has been sent out in writing. But Mr. Franklin will say things drop off the truck. And and so we are here discussing this at this moment. Well, you know what, we're going to go straight into another segment, which Mr. Franklin really came on to speak on tonight, and this has to do with the prisons, right? Now, we heard that there's been a prison break. Let me tell you, Barbados is one interesting place. Every day there's some action, shootout. It's like we're watching a movie. And so the question is, there's a prison break. The question, how did the guy get out? And we have Matlock here tonight, or the other one that they call him. I can't remember the other name, but Matlock is here tonight, and he's going to shed some possible light and ask some questions, and we can determine who really let the dogs out. Go right ahead, Caswell.
This thing is troubling. I represent a number of prison officers, and I sometimes try to hold things because I want to protect them, and some because some of the things that happen are some national security issues, and I don't discuss them. But this is not a national security issue. What might be the national security issue is the people who are managing the prison right now. You might need to get rid of them for the sake of national security because they seem to be very incompetent. Now, let me start. This young man, Sean Thomas.
Sean Thomas.
He was convicted on Wednesday.
The murder Wednesday of... gone?
Wednesday last week.
Wednesday last week, yes.
By Friday, he reports to the people that he fell in the shower, hit the back of his head, and he needs medical attention. He said that he can't feel his feet, but the man walking.
Well, he ran away.
Right? So rather than call the doctor to the prison, because this is a convicted murderer, somebody call an ambulance to the hospital, put him in it, take him to the hospital. And then he spends from just about 7 o'clock in the morning till 4. Now, if this man is a murderer, dangerous criminal, why would you have him messing around as an emergency for so long? But worse yet, the prison rules require that if, let me read it for you, Marcia, because I people might not believe this, but it requires that two people must accompany a prisoner like him to the hospital. They sent one. And my information is that fella had a bad foot. He was recruited with a bad foot a few months ago. He can't run with anybody. All right? But he didn't escape from this particular fella. So he is at the prison, he's at the hospital now. Apparently can't walk because he can't feel his legs and all kind of thing. And a dangerous person. Mind you, on Wednesday, when he was convicted, 4 police officers had to subdue him, and they understand he injured a couple of them, trying to escape from when he was convicted. Okay? So
you mean on the same Wednesday that he was convicted?
On Wednesday last week, he fought with 4 police officers.
Oh, because he was trying to escape.
So as not to go to prison. Okay?
I see. Okay.
So he fought with 4. I think 2 of them got injured. In the fracas that was that thing. So now he goes to the hospital. My understanding is when the police found out he was in the hospital, they contacted the prison authorities and said, look, this man, they just send a security detail down here with this man. You can't have it on here with one officer. The prison ignored the officer. Right? When that officer, but nobody came to reinforce the other officer though who came to relieve the first fellow with the thing. The second officer is not too well himself either. I'm not going to discuss his medical condition because it is not something that you want to do. But he is not in a position to be at the hospital with any young man who could fight the 4 police officers by himself. That man escaped around 4 o'clock. Okay? Having been at the hospital, who is a dangerous criminal at the hospital from 7 in the morning till 4, and he ain't get treated yet. Mind you, he can't feel his legs. Don't forget that part. But he could run. Then the prison, there's some provision where if a prisoner escapes, the prison authorities are responsible for trying to recapture him for the first 24 hours, and then thereafter the police clicked in. When it was announced at the prison, when it was called and said, the man escaped, you know what these people did? They locked down the prison. Lock in the officers who should have been going out to capture this man. You just bear with me with this one.
It's like a perfect getaway.
Yes. You are supposed to call in off-duty officers and deploy the people who you have available to go and try to see if you can recapture this man. But no, you lock the people that's supposed to go and catch you in the prison, put a padlock on the man can't get out.
But the man escaped from the hospital, right? Or the prison?
He escaped from the hospital. So why are
why
you
lock
locking prison
for?
officers?
Why would lock the prison?
Why are you locking prison officers in the prison when their duty now is to go up there and find? But
Unbelievable.
Let me go back to the one where they're saying that the only one person that come in. The law requires 2. And they can't tell me that they didn't have 2 officers to accompany this man, because I know for a fact one of my members, matter of fact, call Nigel Hall, I will call his name. If you don't like it, you will get vexed with me and quarrel me later. He is at the prison not doing anything that day. Why? He has a medical condition and the doctor said he must not work in certain places. And they assign him to the very place the doctor said don't put him. So he refused to work, because under the law, you can refuse to work in places that's dangerous to your health. So he is in prison doing nothing, and you send a fellow who just recruited to the hospital with a dangerous criminal and got him in the prison started walking about because instructions were given that the doctor said you can't work there, but you gotta work there. Mind you, this is a medical thing, you know. I actually have copies of the doctor's letters, so I know what the doctors have said, and they insist that he must work in this position, no place else. He was an escort. He was one of the people who go to the prison. As a matter of fact, the last fella that escaped from the hospital, he was the guy who caught him. Yeah, he was the guy who caught him. But no, you don't use him because he is one of my members who put the government, who put the president authorities in court to make sure that they get their rights. Okay, so he's probably enemy number 1. So you got to do everything to destroy and to kill him. So rather than let him go to the hospital with the man, or to accompany the other fellow when the shift change, so he can go down there, you let him stay in the prison and let a person who is not capable, by reason of his physical abilities, to subdue a man who could rough up 4 policemen. So trust me now on this, that this was the perfect ploy for you while again there. Not only did he get away from the accident emergency, but I have been there on an occasion, and you can only get through one door and then the close it and buzz it next. For him, both doors were open.
Oh yeah, woo! He got a breakthrough.
Both doors were open. Right, both doors. So he had a clear way, and then his van was out there waiting for him. That's some van that they say that was stolen there, waiting for him to get in the drive. Now, how did he get that knowledge? How did he get the knowledge that the van was waiting for him and that it's time to escape? Well, he didn't escape early in the morning because everything was not in place for him to go yet. So how did he know this? Because he didn't have any visitors or anybody coming into the prison, because he was only convicted on the Wednesday. So he didn't have any so this has to be an inside job. But let me tell you something. This is though people will tell me 5 or 6. I think there's 6 people who escaped from custody. Like I said, from prison, because 6 of them, only 1 escaped from the prison itself. 5 escaped from the hospital. Well, let's say 4, because one of the fellas, he didn't get too far. He jumped out of the hospital window, got off on the balcony, and landed on a container and broke his ankles. So they just had to go outside and bring him back, you know, because he couldn't feel his feet. You know, so
that one couldn't feel his feet for real.
I am going to say 5, because there were 5 people. Because this fellow, he really escaped, you know. He had a little
He stepped outside.
He stepped outside. You know? But I'm laughing. You know? But so we had Scott Harewood, Roger Seeley, Mario Austin, Stephen Graves, and they were all from the hospital. And then Tyreek Benskin, the guy who walked out to the prison when the power went off and all the doors open. And the generator did not work. Wow. All of this happened since 2022, and the one superintendent of the prison was acting superintendent, no, he's superintendent. And again, political figure.
So, before you go any further, so you're saying that these 5, whether or the 5, 4.5, the 5 that occurred, the 5 that occurred, all happened under one person.
Yes.
Listen, Barbados, we're not in a joking, you know. Somebody need to get fired. Somebody need to get fired under one. Continue, please, Mister.
You know. So he has been a disaster at everything he put his hands on when it comes to prison duties, but he has good political connections. You know. So I know his connections.
With the DLP, or do you mean with the DLP or one of the independent? What kind of connections?
I canvassed with him when it was canvassing in St. Thomas in 1985. All right. Need I say more?
Okay. but Marcia and Caswell, the prison service has been around for how long? Much longer than it was at Dodds, right?
Mm-hmm.
As an institution of that length, it must have systems and protocols in place to handle certain situations. When something, it triggers a number of reactions right up the chain of command, right? That is what I presume will happen in a well-ordered institution of that length of time.
GLYNE, I must agree with you. The problem here is that I can't fault what you're saying. The problem is there are not only systems in place, there is legislation that governs how we do most things in the prison, right? I think it's the section, let me get the particular section, I think it's section 45. Section 45. Let me just check section 45 or 46 for you. I'm scrolling, right?
Okay.
And it tells you how to deal 45, 46. 46. It says, where in any case, from the gravity of the offense for which any prisoner may be in custody or for any other reason, the officer in charge considers it desirable to take special measures for the security of such prisoner while under treatment in hospital, it shall be lawful for him to give such prisoner into the charge of fit and proper, fit and proper persons, not being less than 2 in number, one of whom shall always be with such prisoner by day and by night. So the first thing they did wrong, Section 46 of the Prison Act says you're going to send 2 people because they said for the gravity of the offense that he committed. You don't got more grave situations than murder. All right? So that a murderer should not be in the hospital basically by himself, but he had a prison officer, but there should be 2. People, let me give another little story. It might be funny, but I'm going to tell you about this thing. This happened a number of years ago. A prison officer, he's retired now, accompanied a prisoner to the hospital. Mind you, there should be 2, but he accompanied the prisoner to the hospital. But he was diabetic and he didn't have any breakfast. So you know what's happened?
Yeah.
The man collapsed. Man passed out, went unconscious. The prisoner had to take the walkie-talkie, call the prisoner and tell them, officer passed out. What to do?
People, CASWELL is back. CASWELL is back.
I kid you not. That actually happened. I know the man's name. I know that the prisoner now, well, he is back in prison again, but he got time off for good behavior when he did that. He called the prisoner and said, look, your officer collapsed. What to do?
So the inmate was running the institution.
You know.
And he didn't run away.
but let me tell you something. If the person gets so bad, know that the matter is fixed. I will tell you. I didn't make a public issue out of it before. For a few months, the person didn't have any telephone, didn't have any walkie-talkie, didn't have any intercom.
What?
Yes. Well, they get fixed now. Because I intervened. I made some calls somewhere and they got phones the next day and then they get cell phones and all kind of stuff. But the prisoner had no way to call. So let me give 2 scenarios that happened.
Well, didn't they pay the bill?
Well, they have a problem with Digicel and I don't know what happened if they pay bill or not. They didn't get any phones.
Digicel?
The what you call it? The VHF system that was down and the intercom was down. Now, 2 scenarios. I'm not trying to be funny. There was a fight in the kitchen and only 1 officer was in the kitchen and there were 21 inmates. Well, and of course, you know that something could happen because that officer, he can't go and part in a fight with 1 fella. So what happened, because there were no phones to call anybody or anything like that, fight break out. The prisoners had to intervene and brought order. But 1 prisoner was industrious enough to get piece of card and write on the thing, help, and went and hold it up in front of the camera. And by the time they saw the note and rushed down, the prisoners had already brought order back to the kitchen because there were no phones. This is something that was happening under this superintendent for months. And he did nothing about it and report the government. He didn't about nothing. He up there trying to, God knows what he's doing. But the worst, let me tell you. Then the same day that happened, you know, the prison, they count everything. Every shift changes, you count. They call it they do the tally.
Yeah.
So you cannot leave the prison and go off duty unless the tally is correct. So apparently no tally came in for the female section. So and nobody can leave the prison because unless the tally is correct, so nobody can report the tally for the female section.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody had to go down to the female section to find out what's going on down there. Apparently the 2 female officers were inside and the door behind them, you know, you go through 1 door, you close it and then you open the next.
Mm-hmm.
But both doors cannot open at the same time. This is the hospital. So both doors cannot open at the same time. So somehow, when they went in the inner side, somebody at control probably inadvertently hit the open and left the outside door unlocked. So if the outside door is unlocked, the inside door can't open too.
Right.
And those women were inside there, can't get out. So they can't report the tally. They can't get out. It's only when somebody went and checked the realize that the prison officers were also in prison. Because they can't get out. So this is the kind of
it's like a comedy.
Yeah. And people getting paid for this.
Marcia, this reminds me, you've heard me made reference to a movie and a book called The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. This sounds like the gang, but that apart, this institution, the president must have a boss, must have a political boss, somebody responsible. Where is the political boss in all this? Is the political boss still in his job? Still in his job?
The political boss is a nuisance. Sometime somebody said the incident CASWELL spoke about is true. The prisoners look after the welfare of the president officer. Oh God, thank you, Ken. I don't speak to the same minister anymore, because when he first became a minister,
that's Wilfred Abrams.
Yes, when he first became a minister of the government, I had previously had good things with him because I went to represent a man, but if I came to me and he came to get me to represent him because when he went to the disciplinary hearing, it was only him there, and this Wilfred Abrams came in to represent the employer, and he said to the employer, "Hey, how come I got a lawyer? He ain't got nobody. My let man get a representative." So that endeared me to him, and he did it twice at two different employers. So when he became minister, I thought I had a man of integrity that I can deal with. That thought was soon shattered, because when they had COVID and they locked down the prison, they just locked down the prison. They didn't bring any PPE. They bought body bags and stuff. But I had communication from within. And that person told me they brought body bags. So I disclosed it. And they deduced who it could be. And it was a prisoner who I got the information from. I have my ways. And they beat the prisoner to a pulp. He was beaten and swollen, and they had him in segregation. I WhatsApped the minister, and I tell you about it. I said, get them out of segregation and get it there. His concern was he didn't know that I had informants in the prison. He ain't gonna know that I got informants all over the place. If I didn't have informants in the prison, a lot more things would have gone on. And they thought my informants were all prison officers. They were not. It's my fault they didn't give people cell phones. You know?
Yeah.
So I get the information, and it proved to be correct. I wrote the minister, and he went on the radio and he said some things that were not correct, you know. And I tell him, look, I will never speak to you again. Never. Because he knew some of the things that he was saying was incorrect when he said them. Wow. And some of the same people, one of the same people that I talk about, the same Nigel Hall, was one of the people he said that were hiding away from the people. The people calling, they said that they went to the polyclinic, and the doctors tell them, go home, do not go anywhere else because you get tested and we ain't certain about you. And they said, we want to come to prison and get tested again because they had plans for those people. I tell them, you're in prison, the doctors tell you, the doctor overruled, the chief medical officer overruled any superintendent of prison, any minister. So you're not going to the prison. You are going to follow the directions of the chief medical officer in the state of emergency. You are going to stay put. So they went on the air, and the same Nigel Hall was one of the people who did this stuff. So Nigel Hall has been a target from all back then, because they wanted to get him in the prison to do what they want to do with him. I said, no, you aren't going in the prison. The chief medical officer tell you don't go. So if the chief medical officer tell you don't go, and this is and for health, nobody overrules the chief medical officer. Or his designate. So when the doctors tell you don't do something in a state of emergency, you do that. So
Mr. Franklin, what do we do? What's the outcome of this? What's going to happen? I mean, they can't find the man. They're not able to find Mr. Thomas. We don't know whether he's in the island, out of the island, what has happened to him. You know, where do we go from here?
I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe she could activate the original security system and see if they can find his boat going down the road. Because I don't think that he has got the rumble in Barbados. This was too well orchestrated. And it was orchestrated. It cannot be orchestrated by a man in prison who had no communication system available to him.
Right.
He was let out.
Let him finish, and then Miss McCLEAN. You're finished, Miss.
Well, let's let Maxine go on. I could always say something else if I have
jump in. Right. Okay, go ahead, Miss McCLEAN.
Two things I want to say. One, I did hear his attorney or former attorney appealing to him to turn in himself. But, you know, this is very personal for me because the young woman who got killed grew up with me during my childhood in Black Rock. And I was robbed at that same bank less than a year later. You know, so this, as I say here, I was laughing, but this thing has just brought back to me some very serious memories. Colleen Payne, we used to call her Barris. Her name was Colleen Barrisdine Payne. She used to be at Griffith, grew up with me, one of my childhood playmates from Free Hill. And I remember the night that she died. This guy was 18 at the time. And there were others. And at least one of those young men lived next door to her sister in Black Rock. You know, and to listen to this, because as CASWELL, and we've heard it laid out, this didn't just happen by chance. There are too many quote unquote errors in this whole situation to make it sound like a prisoner took an opportunity to run away. A decision to allow him, as CASWELL said, you hit your head, whatever. You have a person just convicted murderer who would have fought police when he would have heard the verdict in court. And injured, it was one of 4 police, CASWELL?
There were 4 police officers, and 2 or so of them got injured.
And you are going to allow that man to go to the QEH claiming to not feel his feet and hit his head with one officer who had a foot problem, and my understanding, he was relieved or sent to be assisted by one who had a back problem, you know, and to think of, I'm just thinking of the victim's family. I know her husband, her sister, her, you know, her relatives. And as I said, this is somebody I grew up with.
Wow.
And to hear this nonsense, the police did their work. The courts did their work. And you can have him as one of about 6 people who escaped prison.
But the circumstances, you see, the prison is a complete mess. I can give you some examples of why the administration of the prison, from the minister at the top, minister, superintendent, should go. A few years ago, there were about 40 vacancies for prison officer 1. That is sergeant, right? For those who don't know the thing, sergeant. A lot of people applied. The prison authorities sent down 40 applicants to the prison administration division and said, but these are the people who applied. Did not tell the prison administration division, we got more people. So if you got 40 vacancies and 40 names, the people said, well, it makes sense to different people because you got 40 people. Not knowing that there were another 20 who applied, but the people at the prison refused to send out their names because they did that. And they've done it again here this year, this last month. Now we have vacancies for orderly officer. You have people who are acting as orderly officer for months or years. And interviews come up. You know, these people did not get a chance to be interviewed for the job. And now PID, the PRC, they call it now, trying to tell them, your reports weren't good. A man had a good report. a bad one. He said, but he does supervise. Give me a bad report. So they do a proper one. Send it down. Another thing, but he reporting good. So they send on the bad one too. They send on the bad one to make sure that man did not get the chance. So the matters now have to go to court. Because you have just stopped me from getting a promotion or even getting the opportunity for an interview. These people are so dumb. If you really wanted to somebody that you don't want somebody, you interview them and then say you ain't doing an interview. But no, they did everything wrong to make sure that the people that they want in place are in place. My understanding is that the police spoke to a particular officer who is scheduled for a promotion now and tell him this man damn just send somebody. He ain't send nobody. And another prison officer, junior fella, gave them the same information. He said, but this man damn just won't ignore him too. So the police and one of your subordinates tell you, this man damn just, you can't be in hospital, but just one man. No? So I believe that he was let out. I could be wrong.
But my question is this: I've been asking it from morning. Guys, is if and the viewers as well. Who is this guy really? Who is Sean Thomas? Because I think this is what we need to find out. Who is Sean Thomas? Who is he connected with? Who is he connected to? Who would be the people outside? What's the network? Does he have a network on the outside? What network is he connected to? Has to be a network because the van was stolen. It seemed it wasn't stolen in Christchurch or St. George. It was right here in St. Philip. The white van they said was stolen. So everything was properly coordinated, very well planned. Who are the people who want to help? Who would want him to get out? Why is it so important that this guy gets out? Do you understand what I'm saying? Who is he connected? He has to be connected to some network. Is it a gang? Is it political? Is it just a community? Was he like a Robin Hood and everybody loves him and wants him out? Something around this guy that we need to be able to understand, I think.
I don't know, but I'll tell you something because I want to get before we get too late. The establishment of the prison, what people call the establishment, the amount of staff that the prison should have, includes a doctor, a medical doctor. They don't have one. There's years. The establishment of the prison.
Why not?
Being cheap.
Oh wow.
You can send them to accident emergency, or you can
crazy.
Do
Fire the minister. Fire the minister.
But the law requires a medical officer who's supposed to be a doctor, appointed under the Civil Establishments Act, which is now the Public Service Act, because the law has been changed. So there is provision in there for a medical doctor, and that medical doctor is supposed to attend the prison every day and check on the prisoners. He's also required to check on the surroundings and make sure the utensils and stuff and how they prepare the food and thing meets a particular standard. That has never been done, and some people work there for a lot of years have never seen it done. But it's here in the law. So the law here is being observed in the breach. People do it. The law is there. So just like for instance, I just want to go back into the election thing. I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, they need electoral reform and all kind of stuff, and that campaign financing." All those laws are there. It's just that nobody obeys them. So people think they're not there. Same thing with the prison. If I go to section the definition section, it speaks to the medical officer. For the purpose of this act, the express medical officer means a person appointed medical officer of a prison under the Civil Establishment Act. the civil establishment, as I said earlier, has been replaced by the Public Service Act. So the medical officer is a civil servant who's supposed to be appointed prison medical officer. They don't have one. It's cheaper to send down the polyclinic, they don't go pay, or send him to the hospital where he can escape. And if you have a situation where 5 people, 4.5 people could escape, and you have not put anything in place, the one with the prisoner taking up the walkie-talkie and calling the prisoner and said the bar pass out should have been enough to say, no, son, we gotta do better than this. But this go back years.
Well, Marcia, I don't understand this. Look, what's the man who's in Trump's administration? Is Bezos? What's his name? Who's going through government and cutting up offices? And we were having that before it got to Trump. Because when I was a little boy growing up in Spoonersville, you used to have a prison doctor. The place was, the Lawrence T. Gay Memorial School. Dr. Clark lived there for many years and went to the prison every day with the prison doctor. So that is an old establishment when we were a colonial, we were a colony. You mean those sensible things don't make sense anymore? And Caswell tells me about no telephones.
This is 1964 Act. I almost as old as me.
but Caswell talk about no telephones, no walkie-talkies. How could that happen? How could that? Because certainly if I were working...
And sometimes no food.
If I were working at a bakery, Caswell, and my wife were in charge of a restaurant, to send me my food, and they said I'd be very upset. But I'm trying to understand how therefore it could not be any... I have to find out why you can't send food to my place that I'm in charge of. You get me? With telephones and walkie-talkies, those are basics. And not there, you have to intervene. How is this man still in a job? What? He must really be one of the Prime Minister's parents, ain't true?
No, he's from St. Thomas. So he might not be Prime Minister's favorite. You know who favorite he was.
Wow.
Mind you, I had him at a disciplinary hearing, asking him some questions, and I asked him if you know that particular person. He said no. I said, well, that person got your appointed chief officer, and you don't know? You don't know them?
This is
sad.
It's very sad that somebody said trips to Dubai, but no communication at the prison. We gathering, but Miss McCLEAN, the prisoner got no doctor. We are partying and we're fetting and we are all of these things. We just had on Labor Day a big giveaway of food and all of that. $300 to everybody. But right now we are locking our gates and everything because there is a murderer. Your court said he was a murderer. So we can say that there is a murderer, Miss McCLEAN, on the loose. Quite interesting.
And the minister has not come and spoken to the public about it to reassure the public that system is just going on, like with the walkie-talkies and no phones.
But but this has more repercussions. There's so much crime out there. The police are overworked, and you get them some more work now. When all of this could have been avoided. These police out there searching for him now should be in their bed next to the wife drawing up. Or husband, because they got police women too. You have a situation that could have been avoided if you only read the rules of the prison and applied them.
But Caswell, I don't understand. I like I said before, I used to be in charge of their operations of the civil service.
Remember that.
All angles, and there was a process, there was a system who people paid attention, make sure it happened, you check, etc. Now, but the Prime Minister is Minister of the Civil Service. From the very beginning,
the Prime Minister don't live here.
You can do it by Zoom.
let me just bring in Miss McCLEAN. Has been trying to say something. I think you're muted, Miss McCLEAN. You're muted. I think she.
I was listening to something as Caswell was speaking, but as I listen to all of this, what I am seeing, whether it be the electoral office, the QEH, the prison, it is as though all of the systems, the standards, the approaches to how we ran the public service is going through the window. On top of that, there is a total wastage of money. We had, and I recently you had, and I think I raised it the last time I was on. We're talking about the regathering. If you look at the estimates for this year, you have maybe 10 million or so, but then you had 14 million voted for last year as a supplementary. Now, you were talking about the $300. The government is taking taxpayers' money and putting it into activities which are partisan. Because when you look at it, tell me how many people have come home since we began in January, February, March, April for regathering to justify that money, and a situation we're at the hospital where we have a record number of persons either found guilty of murder or on remand for murder, and a heinous kind of murders. You know, this isn't people getting angry and hitting somebody with a piece of wood or something. People go and callously murder people. And you're going to tell me you have that level of population in the prison, and CASWELL can describe no communication system, all kinds of, I kind of call them bleeps and blunders, ridiculous, failures. And nothing is happening. And we have a minister of Home Affairs, or whatever his title is, responsible for that. And
not being held accountable.
And not saying anything.
Now let me just put some other things to you, because why I am going to just deal with what the law says, not what CASWELL FRANKLYN thinks. Section 10 of the Prison Act. I'm not a lawyer, but they tell me that when legislation says you shall, there's something that you got to do. You must do it. All right? If it's a may, then you could, or you don't have to. But if it says shall, you must do that. You must do it. And it says here, at section 10, every prison shall have an officer in charge, a medical officer, and such other officers as may be necessary. So it says you shall have a medical officer. They've got none. They've got none for years.
Unbelievable.
Right? Yeah, but just it is ridiculous. Let me say, there's another thing I wanted to mention here now too. That medical officer under section 16 of the Act, section 16(1) says, it shall be the duty of the medical officer to visit every prison daily and to record in a book to be kept for that purpose the hours of his visit and the number of sick he may find in the prison each day. And the officer in charge shall inspect such record daily. Well, that can't be done because they haven't got the medical officer.
Jeez.
And it says also, at least one, this is subsection 2 says, at least once a month, the medical officer shall inspect the whole prison with particular attention to the cooking and sanitary equipment in the prison. Has never been done in years. All right? So why is the prison allowed to run like it ran itself? And anything could go. Anything can happen. You had a guy who died in the prison. He went to the medical unit. I got medical unit in prison, but people who are not qualified to be nurses or anybody else. And
you sure they laugh it off?
They said, the guy said that he had, someone was giving some problems and stuff, and they said send him back to the office. Then he cleared, about 4 times he went to the medical, they took him down to the medical thing. The last time he said he had blood in his mouth. They tell him, wash it up with salt. A fellow called Sean Hinks said he's now dead. Because when the night now, this was the Saturday, so the Saturday night now, he started to convulse in the cell. You can only have, at night, if you want to open a cell, you must have at least 2 people. But only one fellow was there on duty. And so the prisoners were banging, trying to alert somebody that Sean was in there convulsing. And he convulsively stopped. When they opened up the morning, he was dead. Because they don't have that one. A lot of people in the prison don't do prison duties. and they find things for them to do. Right? For instance, there's a prison officer who is in charge of personnel. No, there's a personnel officer. So prison officers do prison work. There got some prison officers who have never ever attended a prison. A prisoner has never gone into the cells or gone down by the blocks. See, and they work 8 till 4 and go along home because they're some people's friends. There's a lot more evidence, but I can't talk about it now because somebody will impinge on national security. But what I am saying to you is that this prison needs management. It needs competent management, or else worse will happen. These 6 escapes, or 4.5, or 5.5 escapes, is only the tip of the iceberg. More will happen if things don't happen. The prisoners realize that they can do what they like and get away with it. It will happen because right now the officers are under more scrutiny than the prisoners.
Yeah,
that is if you are not one of the lackeys of the management. But if you understand up and do a proper job, you are victimized.
Mr. Franklin, let me just remind others. I know we only have about a little more than 15 minutes left, but I always will open the phone line, even if it's just for a couple minutes, for people to call in. So I'm going to ask you to the information is right there on the screen to call in. Go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
I am now getting WhatsApps from people who have relatives in prison, and one person just told me that she had to pay to send a private doctor to see her son.
Wow.
She had to pay him to go and see her son. This is just my WhatsApp message that I'm getting now. You know? She had to pay $250 for a doctor going to prison to see her son, who was waiting to be seen since October 2024.
And the government got money to subsidize the activity of the Barbados Workers Union and other things, and appoint consultants and send our people away. And these basic things are not being attended to. Who's in charge?
You see, the thing is, this fellow's a prisoner. But he's somebody's son.
Doesn't matter. He's a person. He has rights.
Yeah.
He's somebody's son.
This is
unbelievable.
There's Mr. Franklin.
Unless there was a cesarean section, he was pushed out. She felt pain for him.
Our host, take a pin right there, Mr. There's a caller. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show. We're going to move really quickly because we have another one waiting, right? So go right ahead.
Good night, Marcia.
Good night.
To the panel, keep up the good work. What I am really annoyed about, I'm not declaring who I am. I'm not afraid to do so. But I, as a former police officer, I keep telling people, it was told by a certain damsel, you are a flying ointment, don't look for the promotion. And this is after having excelled in law and society. The reason I'm saying this is that I am actually annoyed that Barbados could find millions of dollars for excursion and political, I call it, and what was it, palaming. And you can tell me that your prison officers, and not only prison officers, but the actual prisoners for that matter, are treated in a way that would be globally acceptable. And then the other thing is, what I'm realizing is that it seems in Barbados, both persons who are deemed to have mental health challenges and the prisoners are encountering almost the same type of bad treatment. If you look at it and you study what's going on in Barbados for years, because if you have poor rehabilitation programs, you are going to strengthen recidivism on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
You hear, right? So you could look at those two things, and you could, as the BAJANS said, some nonsense, and you realize that what is going on, it all adds up to why the crime on the ground is rising.
I see what you're saying. Thank you so much, caller.
He had a good point because he had a good point because there is a prisoner who wanted to do his master's, and Careful was accommodating him, all kind of stuff. And they tell me the people said, not in my prison. Here we tell you
that he wouldn't be able to do his master's.
the university was going to provide him with the laptop, and all they had to do is to give the current, so that he can and the Wi-Fi connection, and he will be able to do his thing. And we refused. They said no, not in here. And they talk about rehabilitation. A mother is asking if she can call in, and that will let told me I want to tell her yes. You know.
Yes. Hello. Good night. Welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show.
Hi, Marcia.
Yes, ma'am.
I am here.
Okay, so ma'am, if you can, we're so happy that you've called. We're happy you called, but can you turn down? You have to turn down your device, please. You have to turn down the device you're listening to. Turn it down or turn it off completely. Thank you so very, very much. You have something playing in the background.
No, the phone is given sometimes. But then I'm listening to.
Right. So we're not going to be able to talk with you because I'm hearing myself.
Right.
I'm hearing myself, ma'am.
Right.
Yeah, she's not realizing that we're hearing her, but she has something playing. You see, so it's difficult to listen to her. Ma'am, if you're listening, we want to hear what you're saying, but what we want you to do is to turn down what you're listening to me on. Okay, because I'm hearing myself, and it's going to be difficult for the panelists to hear you when there's that noise in the background, right? There's a repeat. That's what we're
Probably
saying.
has her computer on or something, and so she would need
Probably
to turn
the
down that
computer.
volume while she's on the phone.
Right, probably it's a computer or the or a tablet
Whatever.
or something else. Okay, all right. Go ahead, Mr. Franklin. You can tell the mother to call. I hope that wasn't the mother.
I hope not. She says that.
Okay, let me go off and talk with her while you can continue. Please let me just call her back.
Yeah. So all sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
No, but there must be somewhere where we can help bring this thing to a boil, bring this thing to stop perpetuating the repetition of these minor tragedies every day. Somebody has to be made accountable publicly by being fired, transferred, something. But the rest of society would not. The way they do not account for anything. You would never know these things kind of happen right under your nose, right in the heart of society and whatnot. These dangerous things, and it has to be confronted. If the Prime Minister would spend enough time in Barbados, she would be able to find time to do that.
But she must do something about it, because this got Barbados looking like a banana republic, you know.
Worse.
But you see, at the end of the day, CASWELL, and you are exposed to this as in your field as a trade unionist. Too much nonsense has happened across the public service. They've gone in and put all kinds of people. I mean, name agencies, and you can almost see a repetition. The wrong people are being put in positions for the wrong reasons, and they are not knowledgeable. They're not functioning as they should. And things are either grinding to a halt. You know, Marcia, go ahead. I think you.
Yes. Good night, caller. Welcome again to the Marcia Weekes Show.
Yes, it's so depressing to hear what is happening in this country pertaining to crime.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, I personally think that we should stand up for our rights. And if the warden is not doing what he's supposed to do, if the minister that is in charge of the prison is not doing, also the Prime Minister, we should do a referendum to get rid of those, because it is making the country worse than the country is at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that apart from this discussion tonight, that we need, as a collective, as Barbadians, we're the loyal opposition. We need to ask for changes, is what you're saying. Or
Yes.
demand changes. Demand changes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because it is hurting our young people.
Mm-hmm.
How can a man go to the prison and go to the hospital with only one guard? That is madness. And I personally think that they should have at least 2 doctors and 2 nurses on staff of theirs so that when things like this happen, they don't have to come to the hospital unless it is their state of emergency, life or death situation. We need to get our act together in this country. It is
Yes.
suffering all of us. They're spending our money as they feel like. They're not giving us no recollection of what is going on with the money.
Mm-hmm.
All we can hear is this money, and you're hearing it through the grapevine, not even in public, not even documented. And I personally think that this country is in a disaster and it's taking a nosedive.
Yes, yes. Very, very well said. And you're a woman of action, and I see people are agreeing with you in the comment section. Yes.
Because my thing is, we have 16 years old doing crime.
Mm-hmm.
Why should a 16-year-old be doing crime in this era when education is out there for every one of us?
Yes, yes, yes.
So it shows me that we are having breakdowns within the system, also within the home system, and also in the government.
Yes, yes. Well, caller, thank you so much for calling. Appreciate
Thank
your
you for
comments.
hearing me also.
Yes, ma'am. It's a pleasure.
Okay,
Thank you so
bye.
much. Yes, bye-bye. Yes. Wow. I think people are shocked, Mr. Franklin and panel, of what they're hearing tonight. But some of these must be new viewers, because a lot of this, Mr. Franklin, you would have outlined, right, Miss McCLEAN?
Yes, we were spoken about.
And it's just that this is current now, that the prisoner is on the loose. We don't know where this convicted murderer is. People are locking their gates, putting out dogs, doing as what the PM of Trinidad said, or you're going down the clip. Oh, Lord of mercy.
No, but you see, the worry, Marcia, is that you have somebody who has committed murder, has been convicted. So he has nothing to lose in terms of harming somebody. And this is the very worry, because, I mean, as I said, when I think about that particular event and the whole neighborhood in which it happened, it is very serious. I cannot even begin to imagine how the relatives of the deceased are feeling. You have somebody, I think, Marcia.
Yes. Go. Yeah. Good night, Mr. Young. It's great to hear you tonight. I know you would have called. Mr. Franklin is on tonight.
Yes, I'm glad it's on too.
Yes,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Mr. Franklin said there, it's correct.
Mhm.
When you have people like Lionel Maloney at the prison, you could not get that kind of thing that going on. But if you look at the chief of the prison, you could see that he's a bare joker. He likes to make sport. Look at him. Some time ago he was talking how the prisoners respect him.
Mhm.
And don't let nobody fool you. What would have happened there is not an outside job. That would have to be an inside job. But what is happening,
Mhm.
that particular area, the body is getting votes, so they don't want to go into the full thing. All their concern is given some of the people, let them come down. The schools give them enough food, let them work up. And that's all they want. Once they give them that, they know they got them in their hands, because they're licorice. That's all they go down there for. Give them the $300 now that they can fool them with the dog. Oh, you gain some the bounty. $300. Bump two of my dogs alone. Feed is over $300. and I got 3 dogs.
Mm.
These people want getting totally rid of. They want getting rid of. They're wasting taxpayers' money and time. And I'm going to be fairly short tonight because, as I said, I'm getting my body in shape.
Yes. When is it? When is it? Tell us the date again.
It is the 9th June.
Right.
This is Monday.
With Monday. Okay, so we have that.
They're not keeping it. They're not pushing it to the max. They're pushing the regathering because they want to jump this in the regathering. But I'm not to do with the regathering.
Oh, they want to put this on the regathering together.
Yeah, they want to check them down in there because they want regathering. I want to regathering like that. The world goes on like that with that.
Yes. Well, we want to.
This regathering thing is a lot of politicians. People can't pay a lot of food and walk up the place.
Yes, I know you're not in any walk up. You want to run. So
I could walk up, but I don't want to walk up.
All right. All right. Well, you run. We're coming to see you run. Okay.
All right. That's what I'm there for. Not to walk up. Now I walk up already. I got 4. I got 4 to my walking up.
All right. All right, Victor. All right. Don't get any more now. How old you are again? I always tell the people your age.
I'm 87 and 5 months.
It's 80. This is a walk up. You say he walk up already and he got 4 children. He don't need no more walk up. He running right now. We take it.
But listen, I confirm I'm walking up doing it all.
I realize that. No, not at all. Well, that is
I
good.
didn't decide to get 15 and 20.
No, you did 4. Well, that's good. You got 4 out of the walk up. That is wonderful. All right. So have a good night. Have a good night. Yes, sir.
You encouraging Mr. Young.
Marcia, I think after you've heard this litany of woes, there's only one department. There's only one department. There's only one department. I would think that those Barbadians who are listening to the show and are aware of these circumstances, these various departments, should begin to don't wait for a general election. Begin to show their dissatisfaction and their objective by voting or currently in voting in St. James North to vote against the government. Start putting it down. Don't wait for it. If you got friends off, talk to them. Share information and begin the move of let this government know that people are not happy and they want to they prepare to do something about it.
GLYNE, thank you. I wanted to say something to that effect, but I don't know how I was going to get it in. But no, you start and continue.
Good. I never help you.
That means you have to come back. You have to come back.
No. What I'm talking about is this. The government has 28 seats currently. The opposition has 1, and there's 1 vacancy. All right?
Oh, 1 vacant, yeah.
If you need to amend the constitution, you only need 20. You only need 20 seats. So the government can do anything that it wants to do in Barbados, and nobody can stop it. But what we need is some strength on the opposition side, because with all the good intentions that Ralph might have, he cannot, as one person, monitor and take care of everything in those. I'm not telling you vote them. I'm not telling you vote me. Vote for whoever you want if somebody else come and run. But this government should not get the votes. Reason being, they don't need them. Now, if they said they want to retain, they want to get charged, okay, he's in the Senate. Let him stay there. And he can still contribute on the debates. He can still do all kinds of fancy things, and he will still be in Parliament. But if you don't strengthen the opposition, the government will continue doing foolishness all the time. And as I said, Ralph can't get to all it by himself. And all the good intentions in the world, he can't manage. He needs other people wrong him. And you need to put somebody in place to help with the opposition. I wish a few more of them will resign. Mind you, Eddie Hicks again is picking England, so he gone.
Yeah,
and I think that's a shameful thing, because you are elected to serve your constituency for 5 years. You don't abandon them because you want to get a pick, or not you want to get a pick. Somebody
But
bribed you.
it seemed like we have a caller here, but Mr. Franklin, you have to come back. Hold a second. A caller. Welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show. This is our last call, guys. Welcome to the Marcia. Go right ahead, sir.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
We in this country must ask for the whole prison system.
Could you speak up a little louder for me, please, sir? A little louder. Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Listen, we in this country must ask for the whole prison system to be changed. Because when you look at it, Marcia, you see, when a prison, we can have a prisoner getting away from the hospital, something is wrong. Because when they take a prisoner to the hospital, sometimes they have 2 guards, sometimes they have 1. If the man is shackled, he's handcuffed. And he also has leg chains. Okay? How can this man get away from the prison? Something is definitely wrong. When you look at the other thing we have to look at, Mr. Franklin, maybe I don't know if he could confirm this, but when you have a man on remand or somebody on remand, do you know that when this person is on remand, that the government, if this person is sick, they call the person's family. He has to make an appointment for a doctor. They don't know when he's going to the doctor. You have to pay the doctor, take the receipt to the person, and then they take the person to the doctor. They also turn and pick him up. If he has to get a prescription, they have to pay for that prescription at the pharmacy. You cannot take the medicine from the pharmacy and take it to the prison. Okay? They have to go for it. If the man has to get like certain things to feed him, you cannot even take them yourself. You have to go to the prison, take the receipt to the prison, and let them collect it. If that person also needs a boxer, a drawer to care what it is, you have to pay for and take the receipt to the prison. Okay? You can imagine a man is on remand, and you have to take your personal money, pay down central for it, because you have to leave money so that the person can make a phone call. It's $10. Okay? And they can tell you straight, the person on remand is not the government owned. Only when he is go before the court and be charged or convicted, then he is the person owned. If he wants anything, his family has to support. Yes, so you will have some person on remand 3 and 4 years. And they call the family, and the family has to support this person. When you talk about the prison doctor, a doctor from the hospital has to go to the prison, and he is available. If the man is not available, then it doesn't make sense. They have a center up there, and maybe manned by 2 nurses or so.
Yes.
So when you look at it, you see this system. A lot of people don't know what goes on, Marcia. I'm not saying that 2 wrongs to make a right. But you have to look at this whole system. Sometimes you put money there for prisoners, and Marcia, they can't get it.
Right.
If they want to make a phone call, they have to ask somebody that has already paid for their system. They can ask someone to make a call for them to the person's family. So when you say yes, let's say B,
yes,
because a lot of us out here doesn't know what goes on.
Yes,
you know? And it's very hard when some person is on remand, and you still have to be supporting that person in prison that is on remand.
Yes.
So therefore, let the whole of Barbados know what's going on. Nobody's going to come and tell you frankly what's going on.
Yes.
So we have, you see, has not for this loyal opposition, Mr. Franklin saying certain things. You know, we will know what's going on. So let's wake up.
We have to wake up.
And this country needs to wake up and smell the coffee.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for calling. Yes, thank you for calling. Appreciate it. Well, guys, it's 10:05, and we have long past the time, and we're so happy that Mr. Franklin, could join us. We've been in the field here, Mr. Murray and Miss McCLEAN. And Miss McCLEAN, there was the 3 of us when we started that first night on that part of the Marcia Weekes Show, and Mr. Murray came in I think a year after, but we're here together again tonight, and we want to really honor Mr. Franklin and thank him for being here with us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Murray, for an excellent segment that ran right into what the segment that we did with the discussion, and it just turned out that way. And Miss McCLEAN, for coming in, and I know you didn't get to do the other one that we were talking about, but we thought it was important to bring it all together into this one and give it a knockout punch. And I still think that there's a more that we need to talk about with the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So I want to thank you all for being here. And we're going to go around and take a half a minute, as we would normally do, and to give our final comment. And we're going to go the way we started. So Mr. Murray, the youngest will go first. Mr. Murray, with your final comment, please, before we close out tonight.
I'm glad you at least last you realized that.
But before you do, I made up an error. We've been putting this up all night. Not all night, but towards the last quarter of the show, the last half hour. And I want to announce that Alex Mitchell sent me a message today from the BAJANS Free Party that he will be contesting the St. James North by-election. So tomorrow he'll be paying his $250. All right. And I asked him to send me some pictures, etc., because I am booked up for tomorrow morning, but I will show you something in the evening. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Murray.
And he has touched the subject I want already. I'm hoping that at least during the week we'll get more discussion on the St. James North by-election per se, the electioneering, what issues are emerging, to get the feel for the system. That begins the focus for the next what's tomorrow's date? The next 17 or 18 days.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And I look forward to a spirited, informative discussion and trying to bring meaningfulness to the whole issue of getting a proper replacement for St. James North.
Yes. Most definitely. Miss McCLEAN, the other lady among us.
Well, I was frantically searching for something there because there are two things. One, I was just told that one of the co-accused with this Mr. Thomas was shot dead in Black Rock recently, and that is interesting because you ask some questions which we may not have the answers. What really is the story behind this? But I also, since y'all were talking St. James North, apart from St. CASWELL, I hope you can come back tomorrow night. If I could squeeze your arm a little bit. But the other thing is, I want to say that while I certainly agree with the cause to support the Felicia Dujon, and I say she is a brilliant woman. So you're not just choosing her for the sake of choosing her. She is somebody who would add substantially. So y'all gave me an opportunity to campaign for my friend and party colleague. So, but I think that as you listen to her, Marcia, and I will say it publicly, I'm not sure if I said it before, please invite the two candidates, but there's three now, but invite the candidates to come and certainly to have a conversation together so that we can hear what they have to offer. CASWELL, thanks for seeing you. I hope Snow and company are doing all right.
Yes, actually, I had to mute my thing just now because Snow was there doing her job.
Yeah. She wants you to get off of here now, and please say a big hello to your wife for us, please.
Yeah. I will. I will. Yeah. Anyhow, when they come on these shows, 10 o'clock comes very fast.
Yes.
So I am going to use my closing comments to say that the government recently instituted an increase in the national insurance. It was announced in the budget. There is nowhere legally that you can raise national insurance in their budget. Any money that is raised in the budget, according to the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act, must go to the consolidated fund. So you cannot raise national insurance funds or any tax and go anywhere else other than the consolidated fund. So right now, people who are deducting money and paying it into national insurance is doing so illegally because there is no statutory provision for the minister. Let me just read for you what the definition of a tax is under the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act. It says, interpretation says, you don't go that far. Tax includes all assessments, charges, duties, fees, rates, impositions, and other levies, however called, the proceeds of which are payable into the consolidated fund as part of the revenues of Barbados. National insurance is not the revenues of Barbados. It is not consolidated fund. So this, and I'm quoting from the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act. This act, what this act does, government does the estimates and they say, okay, well, we're going to have a shortfall between the revenue and expenditure. So we got to close that gap. So they do it quickly. And then they give and this legislation gives the government 4 months to put the legislation in place. But the money must go into the consolidated fund. So when you, and I am shocked that the Prime Minister, who has been in Parliament for 30 odd years, does not know this. She's the Minister of Finance. And you cannot raise taxes or something like that in a budget. As a matter of fact, a budget can only raise taxes or increase tax. You can't even get rid of a tax in a budget. You have to pass the necessary legislation.
That's right.
And for national insurance thing, however the national insurance rates go up, you have to take that process. You cannot do it in the budget. So I want the government to realize that they start taking people money illegally again. But they do it all the time. I remember when I was in the Senate, they had the Water Authority to collect money. They said, no, the Water Authority can't collect things. The Water Authority, legislation not provide for it. So I had to come back next week and make that amendment. They're doing it too often.
Mr. Franklin, you've got to come back and seriously to air this one out, okay? And you know we're open. You tell us, and we make the space for you to come. And we would love to hear from you in these days leading up to the 21st too, to help to strengthen this opposition. The people want to hear your voice, right? So we need you to come up. We're coming straight up and tell you the truth. We need you to be out there. We need to hear from you, Mr. Franklin. Loyal opposition, have a great night. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave Weekes, that gentleman there that lives in St. Philip. You've done a fantastic job tonight. Thank you to every single one of you for joining, for sharing, for liking. We are the loyal opposition. That's not going to change. We're going to keep fighting. God bless you all. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Is a junior Monarch king, not once but 2 times not a win. Somehow I get my life to flip upside down. I don't know, had me own family panicking, but that them can't tell me a thing. Just constantly bringing shame on me name. Well, fast life is what I see and want it. Now looking back is so much I took for granted. Past life is what I see and wanted. Not knowing that by the law, shortly I get confronted for my actions. All this feeling was just a waste of time. It's so much I miss. So much I miss. So much I miss. So much I miss. Had me long to wait for some days and nights. It's so much I miss. So much I miss. It's so much I miss. So much I miss. I had to build some patience. Stay strong just to find a better way out. I had to build some patience. Some people might find it strange, but I know anybody can change.